The operating room was sealed. Red emergency lights bathed the space in warning. A Navy SEAL lay motionless on the table, declared dead 30 minutes ago. But his K-9 partner sat rigid beside the body, fangs bared, eyes locked on anyone who dared approach. For 6 hours, no one could move him. Surgeons retreated. Security kept their distance. One guard muttered, "It's just a dog," seconds before teeth snapped inches from his throat. Then a rookie nurse in oversized scrubs stepped through the door, unnoticed, unwanted, underestimated. She didn't shout. She didn't hesitate. She knelt. And when she pulled off her glove, the K-9 froze, instantly, completely obedient. Before we continue, I invite you to follow this story to the very end. Like this video and comment with your city so I can see how far this story has traveled. The hallway outside Operating Room 7 smelled like disinfectant and fear. Nurses whispered in tight clusters, their voices barely audible over the hum of ventilation systems. Security guards stood with arms crossed, blocking the double doors like sentries. Inside, the problem hadn't moved in over 6 hours. Lena Hart pushed her supply cart past them without making eye contact. She'd been at Mercy Ridge Medical Center for exactly 11 days. 11 days of double shifts, condescending looks, and being treated like furniture. The other nurses didn't bother learning her name. The attending physicians talked over her during rounds. To them, she was just another set of hands, disposable, forgettable, beneath notice. She preferred it that way. "They're going to have to shoot that thing," someone muttered near the vending machines. Lena slowed, her fingers tightening around the cart handle. "Can't believe they're even considering it," another voice replied. "It's a military dog. You know the paperwork that's going to cause?" Paperwork versus a dead operator rotting on the table? I know which one administration cares about more. Lena kept walking, her expression neutral. She'd learned years ago how to disappear in plain sight, how to listen without appearing to hear, how to assess a situation while everyone assumed she was too inexperienced to understand. The administrative wing was chaos. Dr. Gerald Pemberton, chief of surgery, stood in the center like a general whose battle plan had collapsed. His face was red, his voice sharp enough to cut. "I don't care what the protocol says," he snapped at a younger surgeon. "We have a biohazard situation. That body needs to be removed and that animal needs to be sedated or eliminated. I want this resolved in the next 30 minutes. Sir, the K-9 unit coordinator said, "I don't answer to dog trainers." Pemberton's fist hit the desk. "This is my hospital, my operating room. We follow medical protocol, not military theatrics." Lena moved past the office, her cart wheels squeaking softly. She glanced through the observation window into OR7. The lights inside were still burning red. Emergency protocols, contamination lockdown. Except there was no contamination. Just one German shepherd sitting perfectly still beside a draped body, his dark eyes scanning every movement beyond the glass. She'd seen dogs like that before. Knew exactly what kind of training produced that level of discipline. Recognized the harness design, the tactical vest, the way the animal positioned himself, not guarding a corpse, but protecting a fallen handler. "You can't go in there." Lena turned. A security supervisor stood behind her, arms folded across his chest. His name tag read Morrison. He looked at her the way most people looked at insects. "I'm restocking supplies," she said quietly. "Not in 7, you're not. That room's locked down. Authorized personnel only." His eyes traveled over her oversized scrubs, her pulled-back hair, the ID badge that still had temporary printed across the bottom. "You're the new girl, right? Hart?" "Yes." "Then you definitely don't go in there? We've got animal control on the way. Probably going to have to put the dog down before we can retrieve the body." He said it casually, like he was discussing garbage removal. Lena's jaw tightened, but her expression didn't change. "Understood." She pushed her cart toward the supply closet, feeling Morrison's eyes on her back. Once around the corner, she stopped, listened, counted footsteps as he walked away. Then she turned and headed for the restricted corridor. The door to OR7 required a key card. Lena pulled hers from her pocket, the temporary access badge they'd given her on day 1, assuming she'd only need it for basic storage areas. What they didn't know was that temporary badges in hospitals this size often had broader access than intended. Budget cuts meant outdated security systems. Outdated systems meant gaps. She'd found 17 of them in her first week. The lock beeped. The door clicked open. The moment she stepped inside, the temperature dropped. Or 7 was kept cold for surgical procedures, but this felt different, heavier. The red emergency lights cast everything in shades of blood and shadow. Medical equipment stood silent along the walls. The operating table dominated the center of the room, a white sheet draped over the still form lying on it. And beside the table, exactly as she'd seen through the window, sat the K9. He was massive, easily 90 pounds of muscle and training. His dark fur seemed to absorb the red light. His eyes locked onto Lena the instant she entered, tracking her with the kind of focus that could mean the difference between life and death in combat zones. She closed the door softly behind her. "Easy," she said, her voice low and calm. She didn't move closer, didn't reach out, just stood there letting him assess her. The dog's ears were forward, alert but not aggressive. His body remained seated, disciplined, but his gaze never wavered. Lena took one step forward. The K9's lip curled, revealing teeth designed to tear through flesh and bone. She stopped. "I know," she whispered. "You're doing your job. He'd be proud of you." The dog's ears twitched. He was listening. Lena took another step, slower this time. Her hands stayed visible, relaxed at her sides. No sudden movements, no direct eye contact that could be read as a challenge. "You've been here 6 hours," she continued softly. "You haven't left his side, haven't eaten, haven't rested, but you can't help him like this. And you know it, don't you?" Another step. The K9's muscles tensed, ready to spring. "You're waiting for someone who understands, someone who knows what he was, what you both are." Lena's voice dropped even lower. "I understand." She was close enough now to touch the operating table. The sheet over the body was perfectly still, no rise or fall of breath, no movement. The monitors beside the table showed flat lines, had shown flat lines since the operator was declared dead over 6 hours ago. Except Lena was looking at details no one else had bothered to check. The sheet wasn't just still. It was positioned wrong. The drape over the chest sat slightly higher on the left side, as if someone had adjusted it quickly without proper care. The IV line that should have been removed during time-of-death procedures was still in place, taped awkwardly to the forearm. And the K9 wasn't guarding a corpse. He was waiting for his handler to wake up. Lena knelt slowly, bringing herself to eye level with the dog. His growl deepened, a warning that vibrated through the air. "I'm going to check him now," she said. "If you're going to bite me, this is when you'll do it. But I think you know I'm here to help." She reached for the sheet. The K9 lunged. His teeth stopped half an inch from her wrist, jaws open, breath hot against her skin. But he didn't bite, didn't make contact. He held the position, a warning, not an attack. Lena didn't pull away, didn't flinch. "Good boy," she whispered. "You're doing exactly what you were trained to do." Slowly, carefully, she moved her other hand, pulled down the collar of her scrub top just enough to reveal the edge of a tattoo on her left shoulder. Black ink. Military precision, a design most people would never recognize. But the K9 did. His jaws closed. His body shifted back into a seated position. His eyes remained locked on Lena, but the aggression was gone, replaced by something else. Recognition. Lena pulled the sheet back. The operator was young, maybe 30. His face was pale, lips slightly blue. His chest was bare except for the surgical tape and monitor leads. A massive bruise spread across his ribs. Blunt force trauma, probably from an explosion or impact. She pressed 2 fingers against his carotid artery. Nothing. She checked his wrist. Nothing. Then she tilted his head slightly, adjusting the angle, and pressed deeper into the side of his neck. There. Faint. Irregular. But present. A pulse. "Jesus," she breathed. The door behind her slammed open. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Dr. Pemberton stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 security guards and Morrison. His face was purple with rage. "I said authorized personnel only. Get away from that table." Lena stood slowly, positioning herself between Pemberton and the operator. "He's alive. He's been dead for 6 hours. We have 3 physicians' confirmations. Now step aside before... Check his pulse." Pemberton's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Check. His pulse. Lena's voice was steady, quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. Carotid artery. Deep pressure. He's not dead. He's in a locked state. A what? Morrison stepped forward. Listen, sweetheart. I don't know what nursing school you flunked out of, but vagal syncope induced by traumatic nerve compression, Lena interrupted, her eyes still on Pemberton. His vagus nerve is compromised. It shut down his parasympathetic response. Pulse is suppressed to almost nothing. Respiration is minimal. He's not dead. He's in battlefield shutdown. And if you move him without stabilizing the nerve pathway first, you'll kill him for real. The room went silent. Pemberton stared at her. That's not a real medical condition. It's not in your textbooks, Lena agreed, but it's real. I've seen it 4 times. Revived 3 of them. Revived. Pemberton's voice dripped with condescension. You're a temporary nurse with barely 2 weeks on the job, and you expect me to believe you've diagnosed something 3 attending physicians missed? I expect you to check his pulse before you sign off on removing his body. Morrison moved toward her. That's enough. You're out of here, and you're fired. Effective. The K9 rose to his feet. Morrison froze. The dog positioned himself directly in front of Lena, his body language shifting into something unmistakable. Not aggressive. Protective. Call animal control, Pemberton snapped. I want that animal tranquilized now. You tranquilize him, and he won't wake up for 6 hours, Lena said calmly. And in 6 hours, your patient will be actually dead. Is that what you want on your record, doctor? Pemberton opened his mouth to respond. The heart monitor beeped. Everyone turned. The flat line on the screen jumped. Just once. A single spike in the rhythm, barely visible. Then nothing. Pemberton stared at the monitor. His face went from red to white in seconds. That's equipment malfunction, he said quickly. Old wiring. Happens all the time in these rooms. Lena walked to the monitor, checked the connections. Wiring's fine. Another beep. Another spike. No, Pemberton said. No, that's not possible. We checked him. 3 separate physicians confirmed. The monitor beeped again. This time the spike was stronger. A heartbeat. Faint, irregular, but undeniably there. Morrison backed toward the door. What the hell? The K9's ears perked up. His tail moved once, a single wag. Lena returned to the operating table. I need 2 minutes. Everyone out. Absolutely not, Pemberton said. You're not touching. Then he dies. Lena's voice was ice. And you explained to Naval Special Warfare Command why you let one of their operators die because you were too proud to listen to a temporary nurse. Pemberton's jaw worked. His eyes darted between Lena, the monitor, and the K9. The door opened again. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. He was older, maybe 50, with the kind of face that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. His eyes swept the room in a single practiced glance, assessing, cataloging, deciding. Behind him, 3 more men in tactical gear filed in. They didn't speak, didn't need to. The man in the suit looked at the operating table, at the K9, at Lena. Then his eyes dropped to her exposed shoulder, to the tattoo. His expression changed, not much, but enough. Clear the room, he said quietly. Pemberton bristled. This is my hospital. You can't just... The man turned his head slightly, just enough to make eye contact. Clear the room. His voice never rose above conversational level, but Morrison was already backing toward the door. The security guards followed. Pemberton stood his ground for 5 more seconds. Then he turned and walked out, his face rigid with fury. The door closed. The man in the suit looked at Lena. How long? 2 minutes, she replied. You sure about this? Yes. He nodded once. Then he stepped back, giving her space. Lena moved to the head of the operating table, placed her hands on either side of the operator's neck, closed her eyes. She'd done this 3 times before. Twice in desert field hospitals. Once in a bunker under mortar fire. Each time she'd been told the patient was dead. Each time she'd proved them wrong. Her fingers found the nerve pathway, pressed, adjusted, pressed again. The operator's chest hitched. Lena shifted her grip, applied pressure to a point just below the jaw. The heart monitor's beeping became steadier, faster. She reached for the emergency injection kit on the nearby tray, selected a syringe, checked the dosage. "This is going to hurt," she whispered to the unconscious operator. She injected directly into the vagus nerve cluster. The operator's entire body convulsed, his back arched off the table. His eyes snapped open, wide, unseeing, terrified. And he started screaming. The K9 barked once, sharp, urgent, but stayed in position. Lena grabbed the operator's shoulders, holding him down. "You're inside. You're safe. You made it." He fought her, his hands coming up, trained reflexes kicking in even through the delirium, his fist connected with her jaw. Stars exploded across her vision. She didn't let go. "Listen to my voice. You're in a hospital. You're stateside. You're alive." The man in the suit moved forward, but Lena shook her head sharply. "Don't. He needs to come back on his own." The operator's breathing was ragged, desperate. His eyes darted around the room, seeing ghosts and enemies and threats that weren't there. Then his gaze found the K9. The dog moved closer, placed his head on the edge of the operating table. The operator's hand shot out, grabbing onto the K9's vest. His fingers clenched into the fabric like it was the only real thing in the world. "Rex!" he gasped. The K9, Rex, made a low sound in his throat. Not a growl, something softer. The operator's breathing began to slow. His eyes started to focus. He looked up at Lena, saw her face, her shoulder, the tattoo. "Who?" His voice was raw. "Who are you?" Before Lena could answer, the man in the suit stepped into the operator's line of sight. "Lieutenant," he said quietly. "Stand down. You're secure." The operator's eyes widened. "Commander Ellis." "That's right." The commander's voice was steady, calm, designed to ground someone coming back from the edge. "You're at Mercy Ridge Medical Center. You've been in shock for 6 hours. This woman just saved your life." The operator's gaze shifted back to Lena, to her tattoo. "You're—" He trailed off, his eyes narrowing. "Unit 7? Lena said nothing. Commander Ellis's expression hardened. "That's classified information, Lieutenant." "She has the ink," the operator insisted, his voice getting stronger. "Exact design. I've seen it before, on—" He stopped himself. The commander looked at Lena for a long moment. Then he glanced at the door. "We need to secure this room. Now." 2 of the tactical operators moved immediately, positioning themselves at the door. Ellis turned back to Lena. "Who else knows you're here?" "No one," Lena said quietly. "I'm listed as a temporary hire. Low-level access. I've been here 11 days. And before that?" Lena met his eyes. "Before that, I didn't exist." Ellis's jaw tightened. He pulled out a phone, typed something quickly, then waited. His expression darkened as he read the response. "You were declared KIA," he said slowly. 18 months ago. Operation Sandstone. Entire team lost. That's what the record says. But you're standing here." "Yes." "How?" Lena's eyes flicked to the operator on the table, to Rex, then back to Ellis. "That's not a conversation for right now." Ellis studied her. Whatever he saw in her face made him nod. "Agreed, but we will have that conversation." The door burst open. Pemberton stormed back in, followed by Morrison and 3 hospital security guards. "I've contacted hospital administration and our legal team. You people have no authority to—" Ellis turned. His hand moved to his jacket, pulling back just enough to reveal a badge and sidearm. "Naval Criminal Investigative Service," he said flatly. "This operating room is now under federal jurisdiction. Anyone who interferes will be detained. That includes you, Doctor." Pemberton's face went from white to purple. "You can't just—" "I can. I am. And if you say one more word, I'll have you removed from your own hospital." Ellis's voice never rose, but it cut through Pemberton's bluster like a scalpel. "This operator is a member of Naval Special Warfare. The circumstances of his injury are classified. The medical personnel involved are now under information protocols. That includes her." He pointed at Lena. Pemberton looked like he'd been slapped. "She's a temporary nurse. She has no clearance, no authority, no—" "She has my authority," Ellis interrupted. And until I say otherwise, she's the only medical personnel allowed near this patient. Understood? Pemberton opened his mouth, closed it. His hands were shaking. Morrison stepped forward. Sir, with respect, we have protocols. We can't just... Your protocols are suspended. Ellis pulled out his phone again, dialed a number, and handed it to Morrison. That's the director of NCIS. He'd like to speak with you. Morrison took the phone like it might explode. He lifted it to his ear, listened. His face went pale. Yes, sir, he said quietly. Understood, sir. He handed the phone back to Ellis, then turned to the security guards. Clear the hall. No one enters this wing without federal approval. The guards hesitated for only a second before moving. Pemberton stood frozen, his authority crumbling around him. This is my hospital, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. Not anymore, Ellis replied. Not for this. Lena stayed by the operating table, her hand resting lightly on the operator's shoulder. He was breathing easier now, his color returning, but his eyes were still sharp, still watching everything. Rex remained at his side, calm but vigilant. Pemberton pointed a shaking finger at Lena. She assaulted a patient. She violated a lockdown. She saved a man's life, Ellis said. While your physicians declared him dead and nearly had him moved to the morgue. If I were you, doctor, I'd be more concerned about explaining that failure than worrying about her credentials. The words hit like a physical blow. Pemberton staggered back, his face collapsing. Get out, Ellis said quietly. Pemberton left without another word. The door closed behind him. The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Ellis turned to Lena. I need a full report. Everything that happened from the moment you entered this room. He was in vagal shock, Lena said, induced by trauma to the nerve cluster. It suppressed his vitals to near-death levels. Standard hospital protocol wouldn't catch it because it's not a civilian condition. It happens in combat when the body shuts down under extreme stress. I've seen it before. Where? Lena hesitated. Where? Ellis repeated. Helmand Province, Fallujah, and once in a medical transport over the Atlantic. Ellis's eyes narrowed. You were embedded? I was a lot of things. The operator on the table coughed. Commander, she's telling the truth. Unit 7 had combat medics with advanced trauma training. Off book. Black classification. He looked at Lena. You pulled someone back before, didn't you? Someone they said was gone. Lena didn't answer. Who? Ellis demanded. The operator's jaw tightened. Can't say, sir. But if she's who I think she is, she saved someone important. Someone who's still operating. Ellis pulled out his phone again, typed rapidly, waited. His expression changed as he read the response. Your file's been sealed, he said slowly. Executive level. I can't access anything beyond your name and KIA status. Then you know everything you need to know, Lena replied. No, Ellis said. I really don't. The heart monitor beeped steadily. The operator's breathing was almost normal now. Rex had finally relaxed, lying down beside the table. Ellis looked at Lena for a long time. Then he made a decision. You're staying with him, he said, until he's stable enough to transfer. No one else touches him. No one else enters this room without my clearance. Understood? Lena nodded. And when this is over, Ellis continued, his voice dropping, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about how someone who died 18 months ago just saved one of my operators. Yes, sir. Ellis moved toward the door, then paused. What's your real name? Lena met his eyes. Hart. Lena Hart. That part's real. And the rest? The rest stayed in Helmand. Ellis nodded slowly. Then he left, his tactical team following. The door closed. Lena stood alone in the red-lit room with an operator who shouldn't be alive and a K-9 who'd known the truth all along. The operator looked up at her. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Lena said. You're not out of this. What happens now? Lena pulled up a chair, sat down beside the table. Now we wait. Your body needs time to reset. Your nervous system needs to stabilize. And we need to figure out what happened to you that caused this in the first place. I remember an explosion, he said quietly. Heat, pressure, then nothing. You were probably thrown. Impact trauma to the upper spine. That's what triggered the nerve compression. He studied her face. You've done this before. 3 times. How many survived? 3. Good odds. Not good enough. They sat in silence for a moment. Rex shifted, his head resting on the operator's leg. He wouldn't leave me, the operator said. Would he? No, Lena replied. He wouldn't. How'd you get him to trust you? Lena pulled down her collar again, showing the full tattoo. A black and gray design, part medical symbol, part military insignia, part something else entirely. Something only a handful of people would recognize. The operator stared. Unit 7, you were really there. I was really there. They said everyone died. They were right. He didn't ask what she meant. Didn't need to. Outside the operating room, voices rose in argument. Pemberton was demanding access. Morrison was threatening lawsuits. Administration was scrambling to contain a situation they didn't understand. Inside OR 7, the red lights continued to burn, and Lena Hart sat quietly beside a man who'd been dead for 6 hours, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes calm, waiting. Because the real storm hadn't started yet. The storm arrived at 3:47 a.m. in the form of a phone call. Commander Ellis stood in the hallway outside OR 7, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression growing darker with each passing second. Lena watched through the observation window as his jaw tightened, his free hand clenching into a fist. When he ended the call, he didn't move for a full minute, just stood there, staring at nothing. Then he turned and walked back into the operating room. We have a problem, he said quietly. The operator, Lieutenant Marcus Hendricks, Lena had learned, was sitting up now, his color almost normal. Rex lay across his feet, a warm weight anchoring him to reality. What kind of problem, sir? The kind that means this wasn't an accident. Ellis pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens, then turned it so they could see. Your convoy was hit 4 days ago outside Kandahar. IED followed by small arms fire. 3 casualties confirmed. You were listed as the 4th. But I'm here, Hendricks said. You're here because someone made sure you got on a medevac flight that wasn't in any official manifest. No records, no chain of custody. Just you and Rex appearing at Ramstein Air Base with paperwork that says you died in transit. Ellis's voice was tight. Someone went to a lot of trouble to make you disappear. Lena's hand stilled on the IV line she'd been adjusting. Who signed the death certificate? Ellis met her eyes. That's the interesting part. It doesn't exist. There's a digital record saying you declared him dead, but there's no actual signature, no witness confirmation, no timestamp that makes sense. I never declared him dead, Lena said. I know because you weren't even assigned to this case. According to the surgical schedule, OR 7 was supposed to be empty tonight. Routine maintenance. He tapped the screen. But someone made sure Hendricks ended up here anyway. Someone who knew the room would be isolated, the staff minimal, and that a temporary nurse with no ties to the hospital would be the only person working this wing. The words hung in the air like accusations. Hendricks shifted, wincing. You think this was a setup. I think someone wanted you dead and tried to make it look like battlefield casualties. Ellis's voice dropped. And when that didn't work, they made sure you'd die quietly in a hospital where no one would ask questions. Except she did. Hendricks looked at Lena. Except she did, Ellis agreed. Which means someone's going to be very unhappy when they find out you're still breathing. Lena walked to the door, checked the hallway. Empty, except for Ellis's tactical team standing guard. How many people know he's alive? Too many. Pemberton saw the heart monitor. Morrison was in the room. At least 3 security guards, and God knows how many staff heard about the situation. Ellis rubbed his face. We can control the information, but we can't erase it. Not completely. Then we don't try to hide it, Lena said. We use it. Ellis raised an eyebrow. Explain. Whoever did this thinks they're safe. They think their loose end is tied up. If we let them keep thinking that, they'll get comfortable, make mistakes. You want to fake his death again? No. Lena turned back to Hendricks. I want to make sure the next person who tries to kill him has to go through me first. The tactical team leader, A hard-faced man named Sergeant Torres stepped into the room. "Commander, we've got movement outside the building. 2 vehicles, no plates, parked across the street for the last 20 minutes. Ellis's expression darkened. "Surveillance? Or waiting for confirmation?" Torres's hand moved to his sidearm. "You want us to approach?" "No, let them watch. If they think we don't know they're there, they might tip their hand." Ellis looked at Lena. "How long before he can be moved?" 12 hours minimum. His nervous system is still recalibrating. Move him too soon and the shock could kill him for real this time." "We don't have 12 hours. "Then make time." Lena's voice was steel. "Because if you move him now, you'll be carrying a corpse." Ellis stared at her. Then he nodded. "Torres, I want a full security perimeter. No one in or out of this wing without my direct authorization. And get me a secure line to NCIS headquarters. We need to know who accessed Hendricks' medical records in the last 72 hours. Torres moved immediately, speaking quietly into his radio. Hendricks coughed, his hand going to his ribs. "Commander, if someone's trying to clean up loose ends, Rex and I aren't the only ones at risk." He looked at Lena. "She is too. The moment they realize she kept me alive, I can handle myself," Lena interrupted. "Against a hit team?" Hendricks' voice was sharp despite his weakness. "Because that's what comes next. They tried subtle. Subtle failed. Now they'll go loud." Ellis pulled his sidearm, checked the magazine, then holstered it again. "She's under federal protection as of now. Anyone comes near her, they go through us." "That's not necessary," Lena started. "It wasn't a request." Ellis's tone left no room for argument. "You're a witness to an attempted murder of a federal operator. That makes you a target whether you like it or not." Before Lena could respond, the lights flickered. Everyone froze. The lights flickered again, then steadied. Torres's voice came through Ellis's radio. "Sir, we just lost external camera feeds. Building security says it's a power fluctuation, but you don't believe in coincidence," Ellis finished. "Get those cameras back online now." "Working on it, sir." Ellis moved to the observation window, scanning the hallway. His team was already in position, weapons ready but lowered, professional, controlled. "Could be nothing," Torres said over the radio. "Mercy Ridge's electrical system is 40 years old. Fluctuations happen." "Not at 4 in the morning they don't," Ellis muttered. He turned to Lena. "Lock this door. Don't open it for anyone except me or Torres. Understood?" "What are you... Understood?" Lena nodded. Ellis left the room, the door sealing behind him with a heavy click. The electronic lock engaged. Silence settled over OR7 like a blanket. Hendricks sat up straighter, fighting against the weakness in his body. "There's a weapon locker in rooms like this, standard protocol for high-security surgical suites." Lena moved to the far wall, opened a panel marked Emergency Equipment. Inside was a locked box. She pulled a hairpin from her hair, worked the lock for 15 seconds, and it popped open. Inside were 2 tasers, a can of pepper spray, and a Glock 19. Hendricks stared. "You just picked a federal lock with a hairpin." "Old habit." Lena pulled out the Glock, checked the chamber, verified the magazine. 15 rounds. She'd worked with less. "Where the hell did you learn that?" Unit 7 didn't just train medics. Lena moved back to the door, positioning herself where she could see both the entrance and Hendricks. "We were expected to operate in denied areas, behind enemy lines, places where the only thing between you and capture was your ability to improvise." "You're not just a medic." "No," Lena agreed. "I'm not." Rex's ears perked up. A low growl rumbled in his throat. Lena raised the Glock, her finger resting outside the trigger guard. "What does he hear?" "Footsteps," Hendricks said quietly. Multiple persons. Moving fast. The hallway outside erupted in voices. "Federal agents, hands where we can see them." "We're hospital security. We have authorization. I don't care what you have. This wing is restricted." A crash, the sound of bodies hitting walls, then gunfire. 3 shots, rapid succession. The distinctive crack of a suppressed weapon. Lena moved away from the door, putting herself between it and Hendricks. "Get down, behind the table." Hendricks slid off the operating table, his legs nearly buckling. Rex stayed pressed against his side, supporting his weight. More gunfire in the hallway. Different weapons now, louder, unsuppressed. Someone screamed. The lights went out completely. Emergency backup systems kicked in, bathing the room in dim red light. The heart monitor continued beeping, powered by its own battery. Lena's eyes adjusted quickly. She kept the Glock trained on the door, her breathing steady, her hands rock solid. Footsteps approached. Fast. Heavy. The door handle rattled. "Federal agents," Torres's voice. "We're coming in." The door unlocked. Torres entered first, weapon raised, sweeping the room. Behind him came Ellis, his suit jacket torn, blood on his collar. "You hit?" Lena asked. "Not mine." Ellis moved to the observation window, staying low. "We've got 4 hostiles down, at least 2 more somewhere in the building." They came in through the parking garage, bypassed security, went straight for the surgical wing. "Hospital security?" Hendricks asked. 3 wounded, 1 dead. They were outgunned. Ellis's voice was tight. This wasn't a surveillance team. This was an execution squad. Torres checked his radio. "Local PD is 5 minutes out. FBI is scrambling a response team, but they're 20 minutes minimum." "We don't have 20 minutes. Ellis looked at Lena. "Can he walk?" "Not well." "That's not what I asked." Lena glanced at Hendricks. He was pale, sweating, but his eyes were clear. "He can walk?" "Then we move now, before they regroup." Ellis pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. "I've got a secure vehicle in the underground parking. We get Hendricks there. We can get him to a federal facility where—" An explosion rocked the building. The floor shook. Ceiling tiles rained down. The observation window cracked but didn't shatter. Torres grabbed the doorframe for balance. "What the hell was that?" "South entrance," Ellis said, reading something on his phone. "They just blew the main security checkpoint." "That's not cleanup," Hendricks said. "That's a statement." "Or a distraction." Lena moved to the door. "They want everyone focused on the explosion while they come in another way." Ellis's eyes narrowed. "The utility tunnels." "What utility tunnels?" Torres demanded. "Mercy Ridge was built in the 70s, before modern building codes. There's a network of maintenance tunnels connecting all the major buildings. Most of them haven't been used in years, but they're still accessible." Ellis was already moving. "Torres, take point. We need to get to the parking garage before they lock down the entire complex." They moved into the hallway. 2 of Ellis's tactical team were down, wounded but alive. A third was securing a hostile, a man in black tactical gear, zip-tied and unconscious. No one spoke. There was no time. Torres led them toward the emergency stairwell. Hendricks leaned heavily on Rex, each step a visible effort. Lena stayed close, the Glock held low but ready. They'd made it 2 corridors when the lights came back on. Full power. Bright enough to blind after the darkness. And standing at the far end of the hallway, blocking their path to the stairwell, was Dr. Pemberton. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood 6 men in hospital security uniforms. But their weapons weren't standard-issue tasers and batons, they carried submachine guns. "I'm sorry," Pemberton said. His voice shook. "I'm so sorry, but they said if I didn't—" "Shut up!" One of the men stepped forward. He was older, late 50s, with the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to enjoy it. "Commander Ellis, we've been looking for you." Ellis's weapon came up. "Federal agent. Drop your weapons." The man smiled. "You're outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded, but I'm authorized to offer you a deal. Give us the lieutenant and the medic, and you walk out of here. You and your team. No charges, no record. Clean extraction." "Not happening." "Didn't think so, but I had to ask." The man's smile widened. "Shame about your operators in the hallway. Good men. Died doing their job." Torres's hand tightened on his weapon. "Who are you working for?" "Does it matter?" The man gestured to his team. "You've got about 30 seconds before we drop you where you stand. Or you can be smart and walk away." Lena stepped forward, putting herself in the man's line of sight. "You made a mistake." The man's eyes flicked to her. "And what mistake is that, sweetheart?" "You assumed I was the weak link." Lena's voice was calm, almost conversational. "You assumed I'd be the first one to break when things got loud. That's why you're here, isn't it? Not just for Hendricks, for me. Because I'm the one who can testify about what really happened in OR7. The man's smile faded slightly. "Smart girl." Smart enough to know you're not hospital security, smart enough to recognize a cleanup crew when I see one, and smart enough to know that if you wanted us dead, you'd have shot us already instead of talking. Lena took another step forward. Which means you need something. Information? Confirmation? Or are you just stalling until your real team gets into position? The man's expression hardened. Last chance, the lieutenant and the medic. Now. No. Lena raised the Glock, aiming center mass. Last chance. Drop your weapons and get on the ground. Because in about 10 seconds, you're going to have a much bigger problem than us. The man laughed. Really? And what problem is that? The ceiling above them exploded. Not with fire or debris. With men. 4 federal agents rappelled through the shattered ceiling tiles, weapons raised, voices shouting commands. FBI! Weapons down! Down! The cleanup crew scattered. 2 went for the stairwell. 3 raised their weapons. The man in charge dove behind Pemberton, using him as a human shield. Pemberton screamed. Gunfire erupted from all sides. Torres and the FBI agents engaged the cleanup crew. Ellis grabbed Hendricks and pulled him into a side room. Lena dropped low, returning fire at the man holding Pemberton. Her first shot took out his knee. He went down hard, dragging Pemberton with him. Her second shot hit his weapon hand. The submachine gun clattered to the floor. She was on him in 3 steps, the Glock pressed against his temple. Don't move. He didn't. The firefight lasted less than 30 seconds. When it ended, 4 of the cleanup crew were down. 1 was fleeing toward the stairwell with Torres in pursuit, and the last had his hands raised in surrender. The man at Lena's feet glared up at her. You just signed your death warrant. Get in line. Lena pulled zip ties from her pocket, another old habit, and secured his wrists behind his back. Then she turned to Pemberton, who was sitting against the wall, hyperventilating. Are you hurt? She asked. Pemberton shook his head, unable to speak. Then get up. You've got a lot of explaining to do. Ellis emerged from the side room, supporting Hendricks. Rex was still at Hendricks's side, alert but calm. The FBI team leader approached, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Commander Ellis, Agent Sarah Chen, FBI Counterintelligence. We got your emergency signal. Took you long enough? We had to get clearance to breach a civilian hospital. Lucky for you, my boss doesn't care much about red tape when federal operators are being targeted. Chen looked at the casualties, her expression hardening. This is going to be a mess. Already is. Ellis gestured to the man Lena had secured. We need him alive and talking. He knows who ordered the hit. I'm not saying anything, the man spat. Chen crouched beside him. We'll see about that. You just attempted to murder a federal agent and a protected witness on U.S. soil. That's life without parole minimum. But if you cooperate, maybe we can talk about something less than Supermax. She smiled coldly. Or you can stay quiet and let your employers decide you're a liability. I wonder how long you'd last in general population once word gets out you failed a military hit. The man's face went pale. Chen stood, nodding to her team. Get him secured. I want full interrogation protocols in place within the hour. More FBI agents poured into the hallway, establishing a perimeter, securing evidence, documenting the scene. Paramedics arrived to treat the wounded. Lena holstered the Glock. Her hands were steady, her breathing normal. But when she looked down, she saw blood on her scrubs. Not hers. Not Hendricks. Probably from one of the downed tactical operators. You okay? Ellis asked quietly. Fine. That was good shooting. Lena didn't respond. She wasn't fine. Wouldn't be for a while. But she'd learned a long time ago how to function while broken. Chen approached them, her expression grave. We need to move the lieutenant immediately. This location is compromised. We've got a secure medical facility in Virginia. Fully staffed, federal protection, the works. I'm not leaving without her, Hendricks said, nodding at Lena. She'll be protected here. Not good enough, Hendricks insisted. They already tried once. They'll try again. Chen looked at Ellis, who nodded. He's right. They know her face now, know what she can do. She's a threat as long as she's walking around free. I'm not going into protective custody, Lena said flatly. You don't have a choice, Chen replied. You're a material witness to a federal crime. That means we can detain you whether you cooperate or not. Then detain me. But I'm not hiding. The women stared at each other. Ellis cleared his throat. There might be another option. Chen raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. She stays with Hendricks, acts as his primary medical support during transport and recovery. That keeps her under federal protection while giving her something to do besides sit in a safe house. She's not cleared for that, Chen said. She's cleared for whatever I say she's cleared for. Ellis pulled out his phone, showed Chen something on the screen. Executive authorization, signed 20 minutes ago. Miss Hart is officially a federal medical consultant attached to Naval Special Warfare Operations. Chen read the screen, her expression tightening. This went all the way to the deputy director? Someone very important wants to know why one of our combat medics died 18 months ago and just reappeared saving a SEAL's life. Ellis looked at Lena. Congratulations. You're back in the game. I never wanted to be in the game, Lena said. Too late. Chen gestured to her team. We move in 5 minutes. Get him stabilized for transport. The next few minutes were controlled chaos. Hendricks was loaded onto a stretcher. Rex was fitted with a tactical vest marked Federal Service Animal. Lena was given a clean set of scrubs and a federal ID badge. Pemberton was escorted away by 2 FBI agents, still in shock. Morrison appeared briefly, demanding to know what authority the FBI had to shut down his hospital. Chen showed him a warrant. He left without another word. As they moved toward the parking garage, Lena noticed something odd. The hospital staff they passed didn't look confused or scared. They looked relieved. A few even nodded to her in passing. They knew, she said quietly. Ellis glanced at her. Knew what? That something was wrong here. Pemberton, Morrison, maybe others. The staff knew but couldn't prove anything. Lena watched a nurse step aside to let them pass. How long has this been going on? That's what we're going to find out. They reached the parking garage. 3 black SUVs waited, engines running, heavily armed agents positioned around them. Hendricks was loaded into the middle vehicle. Lena climbed in beside him. Rex jumped up, settling across both their laps. Chen took the front passenger seat. We've got a 3-hour drive. Once we're across state lines, we'll be clear of local jurisdiction. Should be smooth sailing after that. Should be, Torres muttered from the driver's seat. The convoy pulled out, moving fast through the empty pre-dawn streets. Lena looked back at Mercy Ridge Medical Center. Lights blazed in every window now. Police cars and federal vehicles surrounded the building. News vans were already arriving. By sunrise, this would be national news. And somewhere, someone who'd ordered Hendricks's death was watching, realizing their carefully planned operation had just collapsed completely. The question was, what would they do next? Hendrick's hand found hers in the darkness of the SUV. Thank you, he said quietly, for not giving up. Lena squeezed his hand once, then let go. Thank Rex. He's the one who knew you were alive. He's a good judge of character, Hendricks said. Knew you were trustworthy the moment you showed him that tattoo. Yeah, about that. Chen turned in her seat. What exactly is Unit 7? Because every time I try to access information about it, I get stonewalled by classification protocols I didn't even know existed. Lena met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Unit 7 was a joint task force, embedded medical personnel with advanced combat training. We operated in denied areas, providing emergency care to operators who couldn't be extracted through normal channels. And the tattoo? Identification, so operators would know we were friendlies even if we couldn't speak or were separated from our gear. That's a hell of a lot of trust to put in a tattoo. It was a hell of a lot more than a tattoo. Lena looked out the window. You didn't get the ink unless you'd proved yourself. Multiple combat deployments, advanced trauma certifications, survival training that made SEER school look like summer camp, and psychological evaluations that washed out 90% of applicants. How many made it through? 12. Chen whistled softly. And how many are still alive? Lena was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. The convoy hit the interstate. Torres pushed the speed to 80, weaving through sparse early morning traffic. Hendrick's breathing had steadied, but he was still weak. Lena monitored his pulse, his color, his responsiveness. Every few minutes, she'd ask him simple questions. Date, location, current president, checking for signs of cognitive impairment. He answered correctly every time, but she could see the exhaustion creeping in. "Sleep," she told him. "I'll wake you if anything changes." "Can't. Too wired." "That's the adrenaline talking. You need rest or your body won't finish healing." Hendricks' eyes drifted closed despite his protests. Within minutes, his breathing deepened. Rex adjusted his position, keeping watch even as his handler slept. Chen's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then hung up. That was headquarters. They got one of the cleanup crew talking. Turns out Pemberton's been on someone's payroll for the last 3 years, running a side operation out of Mercy Ridge. "What kind of operation?" Ellis asked. "The kind where military casualties get rerouted through his surgical wing instead of federal facilities. Some of them die. Some disappear. All of them vanish from official records." Chen's voice was hard. "We're estimating at least 40 cases in the last 18 months alone." Lena felt ice spread through her chest. 40 operators? 40 people. Not all military. Some were federal witnesses. Some were assets from overseas. Anyone who needed to disappear permanently. Chen turned to look at her. "Your lieutenant was supposed to be number 41. The SUV fell silent. "Who's paying him?" Ellis finally asked. "That's the interesting part. The contractor who talked says he doesn't know. Says the whole operation was compartmentalized. He got his orders through encrypted channels, never met his handler face to face, got paid in cryptocurrency." Chen's expression was grim. "But he did give us something useful. A name. Someone Pemberton was working with directly." "Who?" "Dr. Richard Voss, Chief of Internal Medicine at Mercy Ridge." Chen pulled up a photo on her tablet. "He's been missing since about an hour ago, right around the time our raid started." Lena studied the photo. Voss was in his mid-50s, distinguished looking, the kind of doctor who appeared in hospital promotional materials. "I've seen him. He was in the administrative wing when I first arrived, talking to Morrison." "Morrison's being detained for questioning," Chen said. "But I don't think he's the mastermind. He's too obvious, too aggressive. This kind of operation requires someone with patience, someone willing to play the long game." The convoy took an exit, heading onto a smaller highway. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Torres checked his mirrors constantly. "We've got a tail." Chen tensed. "How many?" "One vehicle, black sedan. Been with us since we left the city." "Could be coincidence." "Could be," Torres agreed, "but they're maintaining exact distance, professional surveillance spacing." Chen pulled her weapon, checked the magazine. "How far to the facility?" 90 minutes. "Can you lose them?" "Not without alerting them that we know they're there." Chen considered for a moment. "Then we don't lose them. We identify them." She made a call, spoke quietly, then hung up. "FBI surveillance team is scrambling. They'll intercept the tail in 10 minutes, force an ID." But 10 minutes later, the tail was gone. Torres scanned every mirror, every exit. "They're gone. Just vanished." "They got what they needed," Lena said quietly. "Now they know which direction we're headed." Chen's phone rang. She answered, her face going pale. "Say that again." She listened, then hung up. "We've got a problem. Dr. Voss just turned up at a federal courthouse in D.C., walked in with a lawyer and a flash drive full of evidence. He's asking for immunity in exchange for testimony." "Testimony about what?" Ellis demanded. "About who's really running the operation at Mercy Ridge. And according to his lawyer, it goes way higher than anyone thought." Chen looked at them. "He says there's a mole inside Naval Special Warfare Command, someone who's been identifying high-value operators and marking them for elimination." The words hit like a physical blow. Hendricks stirred, his eyes opening. "That's impossible. The security protocols can be bypassed by someone with the right access," Chen finished. "Someone high enough in the command structure to move pieces without questions. Someone who knows which operators pose the biggest threat to whatever they're protecting." Ellis pulled out his phone, stared at it. "If there's a mole in Nav Spec War, then everyone I've been reporting to could be compromised," Chen said, "which is why you're going to stop reporting to them as of now. This investigation just became FBI jurisdiction exclusively." "Like hell it did. Those are my people being targeted." "Which is exactly why you're too close to this." Chen's voice softened slightly. "Commander, I understand your position, But if we don't lock this down tight, whoever's behind this will burn everything and disappear. We need to play this smart." Ellis looked like he wanted to argue. Then he nodded. "What do you need?" "I need you to keep Hendricks alive and keep Hart safe. Let us handle the investigation. If there's a mole, we'll find them." The convoy continued toward the secure facility. But Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. Hendricks must have sensed her tension. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that Voss turning himself in is too convenient," Lena said. "He runs the moment things go bad, then shows up offering evidence? That's not a man running scared. That's a man who planned his exit strategy in advance." "You think he's part of a bigger play?" "I think he's covering for someone important enough that he's willing to take the fall if it means protecting them." Chen was listening. "If you're right, then whoever that someone is, they're about to make their move, and we need to be ready." The sun climbed higher. The highway stretched ahead, empty except for the occasional semi-truck. Rex lifted his head suddenly, alert. A moment later, Torres swore. "We've got multiple vehicles approaching from behind, fast." Chen grabbed her radio. "All units, possible hostile contact. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." 3 black SUVs appeared in the distance, closing rapidly. Torres accelerated. The other vehicles in the convoy matched his speed, but the pursuers were faster. Chen spoke into her radio, calm despite the situation. "This is Agent Chen. We have hostile pursuit on Interstate 64 eastbound, mile marker 187, requesting immediate backup and air support." The response crackled back. "Air support is 20 minutes out. Ground units are en route, but 30 minutes minimum. You're on your own until then." The pursuing vehicles were close enough now that Lena could see their occupants. Men in tactical gear, weapons visible. This wasn't surveillance. This was an intercept. Torres took an exit without warning, the SUV's tires screaming in protest. The rest of the convoy followed. The pursuers followed too. "They're not giving up," Torres said. "Then we don't either." Chen turned to Lena. "How stable is he?" Lena checked Hendricks. His pulse was elevated but steady. His color was good. "Stable enough?" "Good. Because this is about to get rough." Chen pulled a submachine gun from under her seat, checked it with practiced efficiency. "Torres, find us somewhere defensible, somewhere we can hold until backup arrives." "On it." They raced through a series of back roads, the pursuers staying close. Twice Torres tried to lose them. Twice they countered perfectly. "They know exactly where we're going," Lena said. "They're hurting us." Chen's expression hardened. "Then we go somewhere they don't expect." Torres saw it first. An old industrial complex, abandoned, half-collapsed. He swung the convoy into the parking lot, driving straight into one of the larger buildings. The other vehicles followed, taking defensive positions. The pursuing SUVs stopped at the entrance. Doors opened. 12 men emerged, heavily armed, moving with military precision. And leading them was someone Lena recognized. Someone who should have been in federal custody. The man she'd shot in the knee at Mercy Ridge was walking perfectly fine, a cold smile on his face, a rifle in his hands. "Well," he called out, "looks like we found ourselves a standoff." Chen's hand tightened on her weapon. "That man was zip-tied and bleeding out 20 minutes ago." "Looks fine to me," Torres muttered. The man who shouldn't be walking took another step forward, favoring his left leg just slightly. Not enough to slow him down, just enough to prove Lena's bullets had hit their mark. "You're wondering how I'm standing. Simple answer. Field medic, adrenaline injector, and a very high pain tolerance." He gestured to his team. "Also helps when you're not actually trying to stop us." Ellis's jaw clenched. "Explain." "The hospital was a test. See who'd respond, how fast, what protocols would activate. You passed with flying colors, Commander. Led us straight to exactly what we needed." The man's smile widened. "A confirmed location, a compromised convoy, and proof that our target is still alive." Hendricks shifted in the back seat, his hand moving toward the weapon Chen had given him earlier. Lena caught his wrist, shook her head once. "Not yet." "You're outnumbered," Chen called out. "FBI backup is en route. Air support is minutes away. Whatever you're planning, it ends badly for you." "Does it?" The man checked his watch. Because according to my intel, your air support was diverted to a suspected terrorist incident in Richmond, and your ground units just got rerouted to a multi-vehicle accident on the interstate. Funny how these things happen. Chen's face went white. She grabbed her radio. Dispatch, confirm status on air support and ground units. Static answered her. She tried again. Nothing. Torres checked his own radio. We're being jammed. Short-range military-grade equipment. They brought a full communications blackout. The man laughed. Now we're getting somewhere. Here's how this plays out. You hand over Lieutenant Hendricks and the woman who saved him. My team confirms the kill. You walk away. Simple, clean, professional. Not happening, Ellis said. Then we do this the hard way. The man raised his hand. His team moved into formation, weapons up, advancing on the building. Chen turned to Torres. Options. We've got 3 vehicles, limited ammunition, and no escape route. This building has 2 exits, the one they're blocking, and a loading dock on the north side that's probably already covered. Torres's voice was steady despite the situation. We can hold them off for maybe 10 minutes. After that, we're out of ammo and options. Then we make those 10 minutes count. Chen looked at Lena. Can you get him mobile if we need to run? Lena checked Hendricks again. His pupils were responsive, his breathing controlled. The color in his face had returned almost to normal. He can move. Not fast, but he can move. Good enough. Chen grabbed the radio, switched to an emergency frequency that might not be jammed. This is Special Agent Sarah Chen, FBI badge number 4729. We are under hostile fire at... She looked at Torres. Old Riverside Industrial Complex, Route 64 Access Road. Old Riverside Industrial Complex. Multiple armed hostiles, federal agent and protected witness in danger. Any units receiving this transmission respond immediately. Silence. She tried twice more. Same result. They're not just jamming us, Ellis said quietly. They're jamming everything, which means they have access to equipment that should be locked behind military security protocols. Or they have someone on the inside feeding them exactly what they need, Lena said. The advancing team was 30 yards away now, close enough that Lena could see their faces. Professional contractors. Experienced. The kind of men who'd done this work in a dozen different countries under a dozen different flags. Their leader stopped at 25 yards. Last chance. Send them out or we come in. And if we come in, everyone dies. Not just your targets, everyone. Chen raised her weapon. FBI, stand down or we will open fire. You really want to do this? The man's voice was almost conversational. You're what, 15 years in the Bureau? Good record. Solid career. You really want to die in an abandoned factory over 2 people you met 3 hours ago? Yeah, Chen said. I really do. She fired. Her shot hit the man's shoulder, spinning him backward. His team immediately opened fire, forcing Chen and the others to take cover behind the SUVs. Bullets punched through metal and glass. Torres returned fire, forcing 2 of the contractors to dive behind cover. Ellis moved to the opposite side of the vehicle, engaging targets on the left flank. Lena pulled Hendricks down, covering him with her body as rounds tore through the SUV's interior. Rex pressed against them both, his training overriding his instincts to flee. We need to move, Torres shouted over the gunfire. They're flanking! Chen grabbed a flashbang from her tactical vest, pulled the pin, and threw it toward the advancing contractors. The explosion lit up the dim interior of the building, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. In the confusion, Torres and Ellis laid down suppressing fire while Chen dragged Hendricks toward the back of the building. Lena followed, Rex at her heels. They made it 15 feet before the contractors recovered and resumed firing. A round caught Torres in the leg. He went down hard, cursing. Ellis grabbed him, pulling him behind a concrete support pillar. How bad? Through and through. I can still move. Torres wrapped a strip of torn cloth around the wound, pulling it tight. But not fast. The contractors were spreading out, using the building's support structures for cover as they advanced. Professional tactics. Textbook fire and maneuver. Chen's radio suddenly crackled to life. Agent Chen, this is Delta 7-3. We picked up your emergency transmission. What's your status? Chen's eyes widened. Delta 7-3, we are under hostile fire. Multiple armed contractors. We need immediate assistance. Roger that. ETA 4 minutes. Hold position. The lead contractor must have heard it too. His expression changed. All units, accelerate timeline. We need confirmation in the next 60 seconds. His team surged forward. Ellis and Chen emptied their magazines, dropping 3 contractors, but the others kept coming. Lena grabbed the Glock from her waistband, took aim, fired 3 times in rapid succession. 2 contractors went down. The third stumbled, but kept moving. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Chen demanded. Same place I learned to pick locks. Lena ejected the magazine, checked the remaining rounds. 4 left. Hendricks pulled himself upright against a support beam. Give me a weapon. I can still shoot. You can barely stand, Lena said, Then prop me up and give me a target. Hendricks held out his hand. His fingers were steady despite everything. Lena hesitated, then handed him the Glock. 4 rounds, make them count. Hendricks checked the weapon with practiced efficiency. 4's enough. The contractors were close now, close enough that Lena could hear their communications. They were coordinating, setting up for a final push. Then Rex started barking, not at the contractors in front of them, at something behind them. Lena turned. The loading dock door was opening. 3 more contractors emerged, weapons raised, cutting off their escape route. They were surrounded. Chen looked at Ellis. Ideas? Fresh out? Ellis checked his weapon. Empty. Torres was down to his sidearm. Chen had maybe half a magazine left. The lead contractor stepped into view, his shoulder bleeding but his weapon steady. End of the line. Hands up. Now. No one moved. I said hands up. The man's patience was gone. Or I start shooting and see what happens. You do that, and your entire operation is exposed, a new voice said from the shadows. Everyone froze. A figure stepped into the dim light filtering through the building's broken windows. A man in his 60s, distinguished, wearing an expensive suit that was somehow still immaculate despite the abandoned factory setting. Lena recognized him immediately from the photos Chen had shown her. Dr. Richard Voss. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a woman in a federal marshal's uniform and 4 more heavily armed personnel in tactical gear. The lead contractor's weapon shifted toward Voss. What the hell are you doing here? You're supposed to be in D.C. Change of plans. Voss's voice was calm, controlled. I realized that offering immunity was a mistake, so I decided to correct it. He nodded to the woman in the marshal's uniform. She raised her weapon and shot the lead contractor twice in the chest. He went down without a sound. The other contractors spun toward this new threat, but Voss's team was already firing. The enclosed space erupted in chaos. Contractors fell. Return fire sparked off concrete and metal. Chen grabbed Hendricks and pulled him behind better cover. Lena followed, her mind racing to understand what was happening. Ellis caught her eye. His expression said he was just as confused. The firefight lasted less than 20 seconds. When it ended, all of the original contractors were down, dead or dying. Voss's team moved through the building with clinical precision, checking bodies, securing weapons. The woman in the marshal's uniform approached Chen. Special Agent Chen, I'm Deputy Marshal Catherine Reeves. We've been tracking Dr. Voss's operation for the last 6 months. Chen's weapon stayed up. Then why didn't you coordinate with the FBI? Because the FBI has a leak. Same as Naval Special Warfare Command. Same as half a dozen other agencies. Reeves gestured to the dead contractors. These men weren't freelancers. They're active-duty military, special operations, working off books for someone with enough pull to make them disappear from official rosters whenever needed. Ellis stepped forward. Names. I want their names. You'll get them, along with their command structure and everyone who authorized their deployment. Reeves looked at Voss. Thanks to Dr. Voss's cooperation. Voss smiled slightly. I always preferred to be on the winning side. You ran, Lena said, from the hospital. Why? Because I needed to make contact with people I could trust. The moment your lieutenant survived, I knew the entire operation was compromised. The people running this couldn't afford loose ends. That included me. Voss straightened his cuffs. So I reached out to the Marshal's service, offered them everything I had in exchange for protection. They were quite interested in what I had to say. And what exactly did you have to say? Chen's weapon still hadn't lowered. Reeves pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens. Doctor. Voss has been documenting the operation at Mercy Ridge for 18 months. Every patient diverted, every medical record altered, every payment made, and most importantly, every order received and who issued them. Who? Ellis demanded. Voss's smile faded. That's where it gets complicated. A helicopter appeared overhead. Not military, not police. Civilian, but modified with equipment that suggested serious money and serious connections. It didn't land, just hovered. The side door open. A figure visible inside. Reeves's radio crackled. Marshal Reeves, we have incoming. Multiple vehicles approaching your position. How many? 8, maybe more. They're not trying to hide. Voss looked up at the helicopter, then back at Reeves. We need to leave. Now. Not without answers, Ellis said. You want answers? Voss's composure cracked slightly. Fine. The person orchestrating this operation isn't some rogue contractor or corrupt official. It's someone who's been inside Naval Special Warfare Command for over a decade. Someone with access to every operation, every deployment, every operator's file. A name, Ellis said through gritted teeth. Captain James Whitmore. Voss let the name hang in the air. Your direct superior. The words hit like a physical blow. Ellis's face went white. That's impossible. Whitmore has been with NavSpecWar for 15 years. He's been selling classified information to foreign intelligence services for the last 8, Voss interrupted. Using Mercy Ridge as a disposal site for any operator who got too close to discovering his operation. Lieutenant Hendricks was investigating irregularities in equipment procurement. He found discrepancies that pointed to someone high up diverting resources. Whitmore couldn't risk him digging deeper. Hendricks had pulled himself upright against the wall. The convoy attack. That wasn't enemy action. No, it was staged. Friendly fire made to look like an IED. 3 of your teammates died to provide cover for eliminating you. Voss's voice was clinical, detached. The plan was to bring you to Mercy Ridge already dead or close to it, declare you DOA. No questions asked. Except Rex wouldn't leave him, Lena said quietly. Except that. Voss looked at her with something approaching respect. And then you showed up, a ghost with skills that shouldn't exist, and just enough knowledge to recognize what everyone else missed. You derailed months of planning in about 6 hours. The vehicles Reeves had warned about were visible now through the broken windows. Black SUVs, government plates, moving fast. That's Whitmore's cleanup crew, Voss said. The real one, not contractors. Active duty operators who think they're conducting a legitimate federal operation. How many? Chen asked. 30, maybe 40. All special operations, all highly trained, all believing they're rescuing a federal asset from hostile actors. Ellis looked sick. He's using our own people against us. That's what makes him so effective. Voss moved toward the helicopter, which had descended lower. Marshal Reeves has offered me protection in exchange for testimony. I suggest the rest of you accept the same offer because in about 90 seconds, this building is going to be surrounded by people who have orders to kill everyone inside. Reeves was already moving. Load up. We can fit 6 in the helicopter. The rest will have to take their chances with the ground units. I'm not leaving my people, Ellis said. Then you're dead. Reeves's voice was flat. Your choice. Chen looked at her team. Torres was wounded. Hendricks could barely walk. They were out of ammunition and options. Go, Torres said. Get Hendricks out of here. I'll hold them off. Like hell, Chen said. I'm already hit. I'll slow you down. Torres pulled himself into a defensive position behind a concrete barrier. But I can buy you time. The SUVs were seconds away. Lena made a decision. She grabbed Hendricks, supporting his weight. Rex, come. The K9 moved immediately, staying close to his handler. What are you doing? Hendricks asked. What I should have done 18 months ago. Lena looked at Ellis. Get in the helicopter. All of you. I'll create a diversion. You'll get killed, Chen said. Maybe. But they want me alive, remember? I'm the witness who can testify about what happened at Mercy Ridge. That makes me valuable. They won't shoot me on sight. Lena's voice was steady. But they'll definitely shoot all of you. Ellis started to argue. Reeves cut him off. She's right. We need to move now. Reeves gestured to her team. Get them loaded. The helicopter touched down in a clear area of the factory floor. Its rotors created a windstorm of dust and debris. Chen hesitated. This is insane, and most good plans are. Lena handed Hendricks off to one of Reeves's team members. Get him somewhere safe and find out how deep Whitmore's operation goes. Hendricks grabbed her arm. Don't do this. I've done worse. Lena pulled free. Rex, guard. The canine's ears went back. He didn't want to leave her, but his training overrode his instincts. He stayed with Hendricks. The SUVs screeched to a halt outside the building. Doors opened. Tactical teams poured out. Lena walked toward the main entrance, her hands raised, her weapon holstered. Behind her, she heard the helicopter lifting off. Good. They'd make it out. The first tactical operator through the door leveled his rifle at her chest. On the ground! Now! Lena knelt slowly, hands behind her head. I'm unarmed. I surrender. More operators flooded in. They moved with the kind of precision that came from years of training and combat experience. These weren't contractors. These were legitimate military personnel. A man in his 50s pushed through the team. Naval uniform. Captain's insignia. Graying hair. Hard eyes. Captain James Whitmore. He looked at Lena for a long moment. Then he smiled. Well, he said quietly, this is unexpected. Is it? Lena kept her voice neutral. You went to a lot of trouble to kill Lieutenant Hendricks. Seems like you'd expect complications. Complications, yes, but not you. Whitmore circled her slowly. Lena Hart declared KYA 18 months ago, yet here you are, which raises some very interesting questions. I'm sure it does. Where's Hendricks? Gone, along with federal agents and enough evidence to bury you and everyone you're working with. Whitmore's smile didn't falter. Evidence from Dr. Voss, I assume, the man who's been running an illegal operation out of Mercy Ridge for years. Who's going to believe him? The deputy director of the FBI seemed pretty convinced. Voss is a desperate man trying to save himself. He'll say anything. Whitmore gestured to his team. Secure the building. I want every exit covered. If anyone else is here, find them. The operators moved with practiced efficiency. Whitmore crouched in front of Lena. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where Hendricks is. Then you're going to tell me who helped you at the hospital. And then you're going to disappear again, permanently this time. And if I don't, then I make this very painful. Whitmore's voice dropped. I've got 3 operators in this building who were friends with the men who died in Hendricks's convoy, men who think they're avenging their teammates. It would be very easy to let them have some time alone with you. Lena met his eyes. You'd let your own people commit war crimes to cover your tracks. I'd do whatever's necessary to protect national security. National security? Lena's voice was cold. Is that what you call selling classified intel to foreign governments? Killing American operators to hide your crimes? Whitmore's expression hardened. You don't understand the bigger picture. Then explain it to me. Some secrets are worth dying for. Some operations require sacrifices that people like you can't comprehend. Whitmore stood. Hendricks was collateral damage. If he'd stayed in his lane, done his job, he'd still be alive. But he started asking questions, following money trails, getting close to things that are above his pay grade. Things like your offshore accounts, the equipment you've been selling, the intelligence you've been leaking. Whitmore's jaw tightened. You're very well informed for a dead woman. I had a good teacher. Who? Lena smiled slightly. Someone you killed 3 years ago. A Unit 7 medic who discovered your operation and was eliminated before she could report it. Except she didn't die immediately. She lived long enough to tell me everything. The lie came smoothly, naturally. Lena had learned a long time ago that the best way to protect the truth was to bury it under a believable fiction. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. There were no survivors from that operation. That's what your report said. Funny how often your reports are wrong. One of Whitmore's operators approached. Sir, we've cleared the building. No additional hostiles. We found Torres, but he's unconscious. Looks like he bled out. Lena felt her chest tighten. Torres had been wounded but stable. Unless... She forced her expression to remain neutral. Torres was playing dead, had to be. It was the only move that made sense. Whitmore pulled out his phone, made a call. Status on the helicopter? He listened, his face darkening. Find it. I don't care what it takes. And ground all federal air traffic in a 50-mile radius. I want that bird on the ground in the next 10 minutes. He hung up, looked at Lena. You bought them maybe 20 minutes, 30 if they're lucky. But we'll find them. And when we do, everyone on that helicopter dies, including Hendricks, including your federal friends, all because you decided to play hero. Better than playing traitor. Whitmore's hand moved to his sidearm. For a moment, Lena thought he might shoot her right there. Then his radio crackled. Captain Whitmore, this is Colonel Richardson, JAG Corps. You are ordered to stand down immediately and surrender yourself for questioning regarding allegations of conspiracy, espionage, and murder of federal personnel. Whitmore's face went pale. Say again. You heard me, Captain. Dr. Richard Voss has provided sworn testimony implicating you in a conspiracy to sell classified information and eliminate federal operators who posed a threat to your operation. You are hereby relieved of command and ordered to report to NCIS headquarters immediately. Whitmore looked at his team. They were all listening to the transmission, all processing what they'd just heard. That's a lie, Whitmore said. Voss is trying to save himself by throwing me under the bus. Don't listen to... We also have bank records, communications intercepts, and witness testimony from 3 contractors currently in federal custody. Richardson's voice continued. It's over, Whitmore. Stand down. The operators around Whitmore were backing away, hands moving to weapons, not sure who to trust anymore. Sir? One of them, a young lieutenant, looked uncertain. What are your orders? Whitmore's hand was still on his sidearm. His eyes darted between his team, Lena, and the exits, making calculations. My orders, he said slowly, are to secure this witness and return her to federal custody. He drew his weapon. Lena moved before he could bring it up. Years of combat training overrode conscious thought. She swept his legs, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The weapon fell. She caught it midair, put 2 rounds into his knee. Whitmore screamed and went down. The operators raised their weapons. Lena aimed at Whitmore's head. Everyone holsters or he dies. The lieutenant stepped forward. Ma'am, please lower your weapon. Not until you understand what's happening here. Your captain has been selling you out for years. The men you lost weren't killed by enemies. They were killed by him, to protect his operation. Lena's voice cut through the tension. You want to shoot me? Go ahead, but you'll be protecting a traitor. The lieutenant looked at Whitmore, who was clutching his shattered knee, his face twisted in pain and rage. She's lying, Whitmore gasped. She's a hostile asset. Kill her. Then why did Colonel Richardson just order you to surrender? The lieutenant asked quietly. Whitmore had no answer. The sound of helicopters approached. Multiple birds, federal markings. Within minutes, the building was flooded with NCIS agents, FBI personnel, and military police. Whitmore was placed in restraints, still screaming about conspiracy and treason. Lena lowered the weapon as Colonel Richardson approached, flanked by 2 JAG officers. Miss Hart, he said. Or should I say, Lieutenant Hart. Lena's breath caught. No one had called her that in 18 months. Richardson pulled out a file. We pulled your classified record. All of it, including the operation that supposedly killed you. Except there's no death certificate, no body, just a notation that you were KIA and your file was sealed at executive level. I was extracted, Lena said quietly. Medical emergency, classified. When I recovered, I was told my unit was gone, everyone dead, and that my identity was being retired for operational security. Who told you that? Lena looked at Whitmore being loaded into a federal vehicle. Richardson followed her gaze. Him. He said I was compromised, that staying active would endanger ongoing operations. He offered me a choice, disappear completely or face charges for breaching operational security. Lena's voice was hollow. I chose to disappear and became a nurse. I was already a medic. It wasn't a big leap. Richardson closed the file. Well, Lieutenant, I'm here to tell you that you're being reinstated. Full honors. Back pay for 18 months and a formal apology from Naval Special Warfare Command. I don't want to be reinstated. That's not really your choice. You're a witness to the biggest counterintelligence operation in Nava Spekwar history. We need your testimony. All of it. Lena looked toward where the helicopter had disappeared. Hendricks was out there somewhere. Safe, she hoped, along with Chen and Ellis and the others who'd risked everything to protect him. What about the people who helped me? She asked. They'll be protected. Full immunity for any procedural violations committed during the rescue operation. Richardson paused. You did good work, Lieutenant. Saved a lot of lives. Exposed a traitor who's been bleeding our operations for years. I just wanted to save one patient. You did. And in doing so, you saved a lot more. Federal agents were photographing the scene, collecting evidence, documenting everything. Torres was being loaded into an ambulance, conscious now, giving Lena a subtle thumbs up when he thought no one was looking. The sun had fully risen. Morning light streamed through the broken windows of the factory. Lena felt exhausted, hollow, like she'd been running for 18 months and had finally stopped. Richardson's phone rang. He answered, listened, then held it out to her. It's for you. Lena took the phone cautiously. Hello? Hey. Hendricks' voice was weak but steady. Heard you went full action hero after we left. Someone had to. Yeah, someone did. He paused. Thank you for everything. Thank Rex. He's the one who wouldn't give up on you. I will, but I'm thanking you too. Another pause. They're saying you're being reinstated. That true? Apparently. Good. Maybe you can finally stop hiding. Lena looked around at the federal agents, the military police, the evidence being collected. I don't think hiding is going to be an option anymore. Is that a bad thing? She thought about it, thought about the last 18 months of working double shifts, being invisible, pretending to be someone she wasn't. No, she said finally. I don't think it is. They want me to testify. Full investigation. Could take months. Same here. Guess we'll be seeing a lot of each other then. Guess so. Hendricks was quiet for a moment. Lena? Yeah? When this is over, when all the testimony and investigations are done, Rex and I are getting reassigned. New unit, clean slate. They asked me if I wanted to request specific personnel for my team. Lena's heart beat faster. And I told them I want the best combat medic I've ever seen. Someone who doesn't quit. Someone who shoots traitors in the knee when they deserve it. His voice softened. Someone I'd trust with my life. Again. Before Lena could respond, Richardson gently took the phone back. Lieutenant Hendricks needs rest, he said into the phone. We'll continue this conversation later. He hung up. Lena stood in the abandoned factory, surrounded by people who now knew exactly who she was and what she'd done. For the first time in 18 months, she wasn't hiding. For the first time in 18 months, she wasn't alone. Richardson gestured toward a waiting vehicle. We need to get you debriefed, full medical evaluation. Then we start building the case against Whitmore and everyone connected to his operation. How many others are there? We're not sure yet, but based on Voss's testimony, at least a dozen others in various agencies, maybe more. Richardson's expression was grim. This is going to get worse before it gets better. It always does. They walked toward the vehicle. Federal agents parted to let them through. Lena glanced back at the factory one last time, at the place where everything had changed again. Then she got into the vehicle and let them drive her toward whatever came next. Behind them, Captain James Whitmore sat in restraints, watching through the window as the woman he'd tried to erase destroyed everything he'd built. And in his pocket, a phone buzzed with an incoming message from a number that didn't officially exist. A message that read, Primary asset compromised. Initiate Protocol Omega. Whitmore's phone was confiscated before he could read the message. The agent who took it bagged it as evidence, unaware of what had just been triggered. Lena sat in the back of an unmarked federal vehicle as it pulled away from the factory. Richardson was in the front passenger seat, already on his phone coordinating with multiple agencies. The driver was a young Marine in dress uniform who kept his eyes on the road and his mouth shut. They'd been driving for maybe 10 minutes when Richardson's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then his face went completely blank. When? He asked quietly. Whatever the answer was, it made him close his eyes. Understood. We're en route. He hung up and turned to look at Lena. Dr. Voss is dead. The words hung in the air. How? Lena asked. Helicopter crashed 12 minutes ago. Mechanical failure, they're saying. Everyone on board killed instantly. Richardson's voice was carefully controlled. Marshal Reeves, her team, Voss, all gone. All. Lena felt ice spread through her chest. Hendricks? Different helicopter. He's secure. But Voss was our primary witness. Without him, half our evidence chain just disappeared. You still have the files he provided. Files that a defense attorney will argue were fabricated by a desperate man trying to save himself. Without Voss to authenticate them, to testify about how he collected the information, they're just data. Richardson rubbed his face. Whitmore's lawyers are going to tear this case apart. The vehicle took a turn onto a secure military access road. Armed guards checked their credentials at 3 separate checkpoints before waving them through. They pulled into an underground parking structure beneath what looked like an office building but was clearly something more, the kind of facility that didn't appear on maps. Richardson led Lena through a series of secure corridors, biometric scanners, armed guards, cameras everywhere. They ended up in a conference room with reinforced walls and no windows. Already waiting inside were Commander Ellis, Agent Chen, and a woman Lena didn't recognize. She was in her late 40s, wearing a perfectly tailored suit with the kind of presence that filled a room without effort. Lieutenant Hart, the woman said, I'm Director Sarah Merchant, NCIS. Sit down. Lena sat. Ellis looked exhausted, his uniform rumpled. Chen had a bandage on her temple that hadn't been there before. Director Merchant pulled up a screen on the wall. It showed a map with multiple red dots. These are the locations of 11 confirmed conspirators connected to Whitmore's operation. Federal agents hit all of them simultaneously 1 hour ago. She tapped a control. The red dots turned green. We got 10 of them, but the 11th, she zoomed in on one location, triggered a dead man switch the moment agents breached his door. What kind of switch? Lena asked. The kind that released every classified file connected to ongoing special operations to a network of encrypted servers we can't trace. Merchant's voice was ice. 23 active operations just got burned. Operators in the field, assets in denied areas, safe houses, communication protocols, everything. Ellis stood up sharply. How many people are at risk? Conservatively? 200 personnel, maybe more. Merchant brought up another screen showing casualty reports. We've already lost contact with 3 teams. 2 extraction operations failed because the enemy knew exactly where our people would be, and we're just getting started counting the damage. Chen leaned forward. This was planned. They knew we'd come for them. They set this up as a failsafe. Obviously, Merchant turned to Lena. Which brings us to you. According to your testimony, Whitmore told you 18 months ago that your unit was compromised, that staying active would endanger operations. But we've been through the records. Unit 7's last mission wasn't compromised. It was successful. The official report says you were evacuated due to medical emergency, recovered, and then... She paused. Then there's nothing. Your file goes dark for 6 weeks. When it resurfaces, you're declared KYA with executive authorization to seal all related records. I was told to disappear, Lena said. By Whitmore. Yes. Did you ever question why a captain had the authority to issue executive-level classification orders? Lena had questioned it. Every day for 18 months, but questioning orders in the military was a good way to end up in worse situations than you started in. I assumed he was acting on behalf of someone higher up the chain, she said carefully. Merchant pulled up another file. The authorization to classify your death came from someone higher up, much higher. She turned the screen so everyone could see. The signature at the bottom of the classification order belonged to Admiral Theodore Crane, commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, the highest-ranking officer in SEAL operations. The room went completely silent. Ellis found his voice first. That's impossible. Admiral Crane is currently under emergency investigation by the Inspector General's office, Merchant interrupted, as of 20 minutes ago, based on evidence recovered from Whitmore's encrypted communications. She brought up a series of messages, heavily redacted, but enough was visible to paint a picture. Whitmore hadn't been running the operation. He'd been middle management, taking orders, providing cover. And those orders had come from someone who signed them with a code designation that NCIS cryptographers had traced back to Crane's personal server. Whitmore was the fall guy, Chen said slowly. Crane set him up to take the blame if anything went wrong. That's our working theory. A merchant pulled up more files. Crane has been commander of unbreakable for 8 years. During that time, 73 operators under his command were killed in action or declared missing. Normal operational losses for high-risk deployments, except when we cross-reference those names with the financial records Voss provided, 41 of them had one thing in common. They were investigating irregularities, Lena said, or they'd filed complaints through proper channels, or they'd discovered discrepancies in equipment procurement, intelligence distribution, operational security protocols. Merchant's voice was tight. Crane has been systematically eliminating anyone who got close to discovering that he's been selling classified information for nearly a decade. Ellis sat down heavily. How much information? Enough to compromise every major operation unbreakable has conducted in the last 8 years. Enough to get dozens of operators killed. Enough to destabilize Allied intelligence networks across 3 continents. Merchant's expression was carved from stone. And enough to make Crane very, very rich. We've traced offshore accounts totaling over $200 million. The numbers were too big to process. Lena's mind kept circling back to one fact. He ordered my death, she said quietly, 18 months ago, because I was assigned to an operator who'd been asking questions about equipment deliveries that didn't match manifests. Merchant nodded. We believe so. The operator you were assigned to, Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, died in that mission. Official cause of death was enemy fire, but the ballistics report we just reviewed shows he was shot with a weapon that wasn't used by hostile forces. American ammunition, American rifle. Chen looked sick. Friendly fire. Deliberate execution, Merchant corrected, made to look like combat casualties. You survived because you were evacuated for legitimate medical reasons before the kill order could be carried out. Whitmore improvised. Told you your unit was compromised and convinced you to disappear. Why not just kill me? Lena asked. Because you were already in federal custody due to the medical evacuation. Killing you would have raised questions. Easier to make you disappear voluntarily. Convince you that staying hidden was the patriotic thing to do. Lena felt something crack inside her chest. 18 months of hiding, 18 months of believing she was protecting her country by staying silent. And all of it had been a lie designed to cover up murder. Richardson spoke up. Where's Crane now? That's the problem. Merchant pulled up a new screen showing airport surveillance footage. He left the country 6 hours ago, private jet to the Cayman Islands. By the time we realized what was happening, he was already gone. Extradition? Ellis asked. We're working on it. But the Caymans have specific treaties that make this complicated. And Crane has money, connections, and enough leverage to make this very difficult. Merchant looked at each of them in turn, which is why we need to build an absolutely airtight case, something so overwhelming that even the best lawyers can't create reasonable doubt. Without Voss? Chen shook her head. How? With her. Merchant pointed at Lena. You're the only person still alive who can testify to Whitmore's direct actions 18 months ago, who can connect Crane's orders to actual operational outcomes, who can put a human face on what these men did. Lena understood immediately. You want me to testify publicly? Congressional hearing, televised, complete disclosure of everything that happened. Merchant's voice softened slightly. I know what I'm asking. Going public means giving up any chance of anonymity, means every detail of your service record becomes part of the public domain, means you'll be a target for anyone who wants to protect Crane's network. What's the alternative? We build a case with what we have, take it to court, hope a jury believes us, and watch Crane's lawyers tear apart every piece of evidence as hearsay and circumstantial. Merchant paused. Or he never comes back to face trial at all, lives out his days in a country with no extradition treaty, rich and free, while the people he betrayed stay dead. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. When's the hearing? Lena asked. 72 hours. Senate Intelligence Committee. Every major news network will be covering it. Merchant pulled up a document. You'll have legal representation, full protection detail, and immunity for anything you disclose during testimony. I'll do it. Ellis cleared his throat. Director, with respect, putting her in front of cameras makes her a target. We're already dealing with burned operations and compromised personnel. Adding a public face to this investigation is exactly what we need, Merchant interrupted. Crane's power comes from operating in shadows, from compartmentalization and deniability. We drag this into the light, we strip away his protection, make it impossible for anyone to claim they didn't know. Chen was nodding slowly. It's a good strategy, but Commander Ellis is right about the risk. The moment she testifies, everyone connected to Crane's network will want her dead. Then we make sure she stays alive. Merchant turned to Richardson. Colonel, I want a full protection detail. Military police, federal agents, private security if necessary. She doesn't go anywhere without armed escort. Already arranging it, Richardson said. A knock on the door interrupted them. An aide entered, handed Merchant a tablet, and left quickly. Merchant read whatever was on the screen. Her expression darkened. What is it? Ellis asked. Whitmore just tried to hang himself in his cell. Guards found him in time, but he's in critical condition. Merchant set down the tablet, which means either he's genuinely suicidal or someone got to him. Someone inside federal custody? Chen's voice was sharp. We're investigating, but yes, that's the implication. Merchant looked at Lena. Which is why you're not staying in any facility connected to military or federal detention. Too many potential access points. Where then? Safe house. Off-books location. Civilian cover. You'll have a protection detail, but to anyone watching, you'll just be another temporary resident. Merchant pulled up a new file. We've used this location before for high-value witnesses. Never been compromised. The address meant nothing to Lena, but Richardson was nodding. Good location. Defensible. Multiple exit routes. You'll stay there until the hearing. Minimal contact with outside world. No social media, no phone calls except through secured federal lines. No visitors except pre-approved legal counsel. Merchant's tone left no room for argument. I know it sounds like prison, but it's the only way to keep you alive long enough to testify. Understood. The meeting continued for another hour. Details, procedures, legal frameworks. Lena signed documents she barely read, acknowledged warnings about perjury and national security violations, and accepted that her life for the next 72 hours would be completely controlled by federal handlers. When it finally ended, Richardson escorted her to a different vehicle. This one had no government markings at all, just a standard SUV that could have belonged to anyone. The driver was a woman in her 30s wearing casual clothes. She didn't introduce herself. They drove for 90 minutes, taking a route that doubled back on itself multiple times. Professional counter-surveillance. By the time they reached the safe house, Lena had no idea what city they were in. The house itself was surprisingly normal. Suburban neighborhood, two-story colonial, neat lawn, the kind of place where families raised kids and complained about property taxes. Inside, it was less normal. Reinforced doors, security cameras, panic buttons in every room, and 4 federal agents who'd set up a command post in what was supposed to be the dining room. The team leader introduced himself as Agent Marcus Webb, former military, professional. He walked her through the security protocols with the same tone someone might use to explain how to operate a dishwasher. You're on the 2nd floor, bedroom and bathroom. We've stocked clothes in your size, toiletries, books if you get bored. There's a TV but no internet connection. He handed her a phone. This only calls one number, my direct line. You need anything, you call. You hear anything suspicious, you call. You get nervous for no reason, you still call? Got it. Good. Webb gestured to the stairs. Get some rest. You look like hell. Lena climbed the stairs, found the bedroom. It was generic but clean. She locked the door out of habit, then realized how pointless that was with federal agents stationed downstairs. She sat on the bed, stared at the wall. 18 months of hiding had led to this. 3 days until she testified against people who'd spent years building networks of corruption and murder. 3 days until she became a public target. Her phone buzzed, the one Webb had given her. She answered. Hart. It's me, Hendrick's voice. They said you were at the safe house. Wanted to check in. How are you? Alive. Thanks to you. Again. He paused. They told me about Voss. About the helicopter. Yeah. Also told me you're testifying in 3 days. Yeah. You sure about this? Lena thought about Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, about the 3 operators who'd died with him, about 41 other names on Merchant's list, about everyone who'd been killed to protect secrets and bank accounts. I'm sure, she said. Okay. Then I'm testifying too. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. They tried to kill me, killed my team, used my own command structure against me. I've got things to say about that. Hendrix's voice was steady. Besides, you shouldn't have to do this alone. I'm not alone. I've got 4 federal agents downstairs drinking bad coffee and watching security feeds. You know what I mean. She did. Thank you, Lena said quietly. Thank Rex. He's the one who wouldn't let them give up on me. How is he? Confused, keeps looking for you, thinks you're part of his pack now. Hendrix laughed softly. Can't say I blame him. They talked for another 10 minutes. Nothing important, just the sound of another person's voice pushing back against the silence. When they hung up, Lana felt fractionally less isolated. She tried to sleep, couldn't. Her mind kept circling back to the same questions. How deep did Crane's network go? How many others were involved? How many operations had been compromised? Around midnight, her phone buzzed again. Hart. It's Webb. We've got movement outside. Probably nothing, but the team's going to elevated alert. Stay in your room. Lock the door. Lena was already moving. What kind of movement? Car that's passed the house 3 times in the last hour. Different speeds, different routes, but same vehicle. Could be someone lost. Could be someone casing the location. You called it in? Local PD is sending a patrol car. Should be here in 5 minutes. Lena went to the window, looked out carefully, staying to the side where she wouldn't be silhouetted. The street was quiet. Suburban darkness. A few houses with porch lights on. Then she saw it. A sedan parked 3 houses down. No lights. Engine running. Webb, there's a vehicle parked on the east side, 3 houses down. I see it. Stay away from the windows. Lena stepped back. Her mind was already running through scenarios. If this was surveillance, they'd sit and watch. If it was an attack, they'd move fast. Either way, staying in the bedroom was a mistake. Too easy to get trapped. She grabbed the phone and the jacket Webb had provided, checked the closet, found exactly what she'd hoped for. A go bag. Standard safe house protocol. Cash, fake ID, burner phone, and a Glock 17. She checked the weapon. Loaded. Good. Footsteps on the stairs, heavy, fast. Lena aimed at the door. Hart, it's Webb. We're evacuating, now. She opened the door. Webb was there with 2 other agents, all armed. What happened? Patrol car got hit 2 blocks from here. Officers are down. This location is compromised. Webb was already moving toward the stairs. We've got a vehicle ready. You're going out the back. They moved fast. Professional efficiency. Out the back door, across the yard, through a gate into the neighbor's property. A black SUV waited in the alley, engine running. Lena got in. Webb and another agent followed. The driver pulled out before the doors were fully closed. Where are we going? Lena asked. Secondary safe house. Different location. We'll get you secure and... The windshield exploded. The driver slumped forward. Webb grabbed the wheel, trying to control the vehicle as it swerved. The other agent returned fire through the shattered windshield. Lena saw muzzle flashes from a rooftop. Professional positioning, professional accuracy. This wasn't random. This was a hit team. Webb managed to straighten the SUV. Hart, take the wheel. Lena didn't hesitate. She climbed into the front seat, stepping over the dead driver, and grabbed the steering wheel. Webb dragged the body into the back, then took over the gas pedal from his position. Drive, he shouted. Lena drove. Hard turns, running red lights. The SUV handled like a tank, but she made it work. More gunfire behind them. Webb was on the radio calling for backup, giving their position, requesting immediate assistance. They made it 6 blocks before the engine started smoking. We're hit, the other agent said. Coolant's leaking. We've got maybe 2 minutes before this thing dies. Webb scanned the area. There, hospital. Get us to the emergency entrance. Lena saw it. 3 blocks away. Mercy Regional Medical Center. Not Mercy Ridge. Different facility, but close enough. She pushed the dying SUV as hard as it would go, pulled into the emergency entrance just as the engine seized completely. Webb was out first, weapon up, scanning for threats. The other agent covered the rear. Lena stayed low, moving fast toward the entrance. Hospital security came running. Webb flashed his badge. Federal agents under fire. We need a secure location. Now. The security team didn't argue. They'd seen enough to know this was real. They were rushed inside through corridors into a secure room in the cardiac wing. Staff cleared the area. Security locked down the entrances. Webb was on his phone immediately. This is Agent Webb. We've been hit. 1 officer down. Location compromised. Requesting immediate extraction and... He stopped. Listened. His face went white. Say that again. He hung up, looked at Lena. What? She asked. Whitmore's dead. Died in federal custody 10 minutes ago. Official cause, cardiac arrest. Webb's voice was hollow. But the doctor who examined him found evidence of poison, something administered through his IV line. Someone inside federal custody, Lena said. Someone with access to a federal detention facility, with medical knowledge, with authorization to be in that wing unsupervised. Webb sat down heavily. This network is deeper than we thought. The other agent spoke up. Sir, if they can hit someone in federal custody, they can hit us anywhere. This hospital included. Webb nodded slowly. Which means we can't trust any secure facility, any federal location, any military installation. He looked at Lena. Where's the last place they'd look for you? Lena understood immediately what he was suggesting. The last place anyone would look for a federal witness under protection was exactly where this had all started. Mercy Ridge, she said, the hospital where Hendricks almost died. Webb smiled grimly. The one place they'd never expect us to go back to. He made a call, spoke in low tones. Hung up. Director Merchant agrees we're heading back to Mercy Ridge. Different wing, civilian clothes, minimal security presence. You'll be listed as a patient under a false name. He stood. If anyone asks, you're recovering from a car accident. Nothing federal, nothing military, just another patient. For 3 days? For as long as it takes to get you to that hearing alive. They left the hospital through a service entrance. No federal vehicle this time, just a standard sedan driven by an off-duty nurse who owed Webb a favor. The drive back to Mercy Ridge took 40 minutes. By the time they arrived, it was nearly 3 a.m. The hospital was quiet. Night shift. Minimal staff. Webb checked her in under the name Sarah Mitchell, car accident victim. Observation for possible concussion. They put her in a private room on the 4th floor. Orthopedic wing. No federal agents stationed outside. No obvious security. Just Webb, who changed into civilian clothes and was posing as her brother. Get some rest, he said. Real rest this time. We've got people watching the hospital, but they're not close enough to be obvious. How many people know I'm here? 4, me, the director, the nurse who drove us, and one other person I trust with my life. But Webb moved toward the door. I'll be right outside if you need anything. He left. Lena lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, and realized she'd come full circle. Back to a hospital where 72 hours ago she'd been nobody. A temporary nurse who barely registered on anyone's awareness. Now she was a federal witness with a target on her back, hiding in plain sight, waiting to testify against people who'd murdered dozens to protect their secrets. And somewhere out there, Admiral Theodore Crane was watching, planning, deciding how many more people he was willing to kill to stay free. Lena closed her eyes. She had 72 hours to stay alive. Starting now. The door to her room opened quietly. Too quietly. Lena's hand moved to the weapon Webb had left her, hidden under the pillow. A figure stepped inside, backlit by the hallway, moving carefully. Lena's finger found the trigger. The figure raised both hands slowly, stepped into the dim light from the window. It was a nurse. Young, familiar. One of the nurses who'd been working the night Hendricks almost died. One of the ones who'd watched Lena walk into OR 7 when everyone else had backed away. Don't shoot, the nurse whispered. I'm not here to hurt you. Then why are you here? The nurse glanced at the door. Because I know who you really are, and I know why you're back. Lena kept the weapon steady. Start talking. My name is Jennifer Parks. I've been working at Mercy Ridge for 3 years. And for 3 years, I've watched people die who shouldn't have died. Patients who were stable one day and gone the next. Medical records that didn't match what I'd seen. Doctors who logged procedures that never happened. Her voice shook. I tried reporting it. Got shut down. Transferred to different shifts. Told to mind my own business. Why tell me this now? Because you're the first person who fought back and lived. Jennifer took a step closer. And because there's something you need to know, something that happened while you were gone. What? Dr. Pemberton. He didn't just work with Voss. He kept records. Physical records, old school, paper files hidden in the hospital. Jennifer pulled a folded envelope from her pocket. I found them this morning when they were cleaning out his office. Before federal agents could secure everything. She held out the envelope. Lena took it, opened it. Inside were photocopies of medical records, 41 names, each one marked with a red stamp, terminated. The list matched exactly what Director Merchant had shown her. But there was something else, a 42nd name, recently added, the ink barely dry. Lieutenant Marcus Hendricks. And next to his name, a notation. Secondary termination authorized. Execute upon recovery. The order was dated tomorrow, and it was signed by someone Lena hadn't expected, someone who was supposed to be protecting him. The signature was crisp, clear, unmistakable. Agent Marcus Webb. Lena stared at the signature. Her mind raced through every interaction with Webb, every decision he'd made, every route he'd chosen. The safe house attack hadn't been a breach. It had been orchestrated. Jennifer was watching her carefully. You understand what this means? It means the person who's supposed to be protecting me is planning to kill someone else I saved. Lena looked up. Where's Webb now? Right outside your door, like he said he'd be. Lena's grip tightened on the weapon. She could walk out there, confront him. But if Webb was part of Crane's network, he wouldn't be working alone. There'd be others, backup plans, contingencies. She needed proof, and she needed to warn Hendricks. Do you have access to a phone? Lena asked. One that's not monitored? Jennifer pulled out her personal cell. Use mine, but make it quick. If Webb checks on you and finds me here, he won't. Lena took the phone, dialed the number Hendricks had called from earlier. It rang 4 times before connecting. Yeah? Hendricks's voice was groggy, asleep. It's me. Don't say my name, don't react, just listen. Lena kept her voice low. The agent protecting me is compromised, Webb. He's part of Crane's network, and there's a termination order for you dated tomorrow. Silence on the other end. Then Hendricks's voice came back clearer now, awake. You're sure? I'm holding the documentation. Physical evidence. Your name is on it. Where are you? Mercy Ridge, 4th floor. But don't come here. Webb's outside my door, and he can't know I'm onto him. Lena thought fast. Where are you? Federal medical facility in Virginia, supposedly secure. It's not. If Webb's compromised, assume everyone connected to your protection detail might be too. Lena looked at Jennifer. I need you to get somewhere public, somewhere with cameras and witnesses, somewhere they can't make you disappear quietly. The hearing, Hendricks said. I go straight to the Capitol building, Senate Intelligence Committee chambers. Full media presence. That's not for another 48 hours. Then I go early, show up, camp out, make noise if they try to remove me. His voice was steady despite the situation. What about you? I'll handle Webb. Alone? I've got help. Lena glanced at Jennifer, who nodded. Just stay alive until the hearing. Same to you. She hung up. Handed the phone back to Jennifer. I need you to do something that's probably going to get you in trouble. I've been in trouble before. Not like this. Lena pulled out the photocopied records. These need to get to Director Sarah Merchant at NCIS, not through official channels, not through anyone connected to federal law enforcement. Find a reporter, someone credible, someone who won't sit on this story. Give them copies and tell them to run it immediately. Jennifer took the papers. What about the originals? I keep those. Insurance. Lena folded the originals carefully, tucked them inside her hospital gown. If Webb moves against me before the hearing, these documents need to be public. Understand? Yes. Good. Now get out of here before he checks on me. Jennifer moved to the door, paused. For what it's worth, you saved my faith in this place. Watching you walk into OR 7 when everyone else ran. Watching you refuse to back down even when they threatened you. Some of us noticed, some of us remembered. Just get those documents to someone who can use them. Jennifer slipped out. Lena sat in the hospital bed, the weapon hidden under her pillow, her mind working through scenarios. Webb would make his move soon. Probably not here. Too public. Too many potential witnesses. He'd wait until transport, until they moved her to the Capitol building for the hearing. A medical emergency during transport. Tragic accident. Federal witness dies before she can testify. Clean, simple, effective. Which meant Lena needed to move first. She got out of bed, changed into the civilian clothes someone had left for her. Jeans, plain shirt, jacket with deep pockets. She looked like any other patient getting ready to check out. The weapon went into her jacket pocket. The document stayed against her skin. She opened the door quietly. Webb was there, sitting in a chair reading something on his phone. He looked up when she emerged. "You okay?" he asked. "Thought you were sleeping." "Couldn't. Too wired." Lena kept her voice casual. "Going to walk. Clear my head." Webb stood. "I'll come with you." "I'd rather be alone." "That's not how this works. You don't go anywhere without protection." Lena met his eyes, saw nothing suspicious, just professional concern. But that signature was burned into her memory. "Fine," she said. "Let's walk." They moved through the quiet hospital corridors. 4th floor, orthopedic wing. Most patients were asleep. Nurses worked at their stations, barely glancing up as they passed. Webb stayed half a step behind her. Professional distance, but his hand rested near his sidearm. "You ever worked protection detail before this?" Lena asked. "Few times. High-value witnesses, asset protection. Nothing quite like this, though." "What makes this different?" Webb smiled slightly. "Usually the people I'm protecting aren't capable of saving themselves." "You're different. Former Unit 7, combat medic. I read your file." "What wasn't classified, anyway?" "Most of it was classified." "Which tells me you did things that don't make it into official reports." They'd reached a stairwell. Lena opened the door, started down. "Where are we going?" Webb asked. "Ground floor. I want to see outside, get some air." Webb followed. His footsteps echoed in the concrete stairwell. Lena's hand was in her pocket now, fingers wrapped around the Glock. They reached the ground floor. Lena pushed through the door into a maintenance corridor. Dim lighting, no cameras, no witnesses. Perfect. She turned, drew the weapon, aimed center mass. Webb froze. His hand moved toward his sidearm. "Don't," Lena said quietly. "I will shoot you." Webb's eyes narrowed. "What the hell are you doing?" "Stopping you from killing Lieutenant Hendricks." Something changed in Webb's expression. Just a flicker. But Lena saw it. Recognition, calculation. "I don't know what you think you know," he started. "I know your signature is on a termination order dated tomorrow. I know you've been feeding information to Crane's network. I know the safe house attack was orchestrated to provide cover for eliminating me." Lena's voice was ice. "What I don't know is why. Money? Ideology? Or are you just another person Crane has compromised?" Webb was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not the professional smile from before. Something colder. "You're smart," he said. "Smarter than Whitmore gave you credit for. He said you were just a medic playing soldier. But you're more than that, aren't you? Answer the question." "Why?" Webb shrugged. "Because the system is broken. Because people like Crane are the only ones honest enough to admit that everything we do, every operation, every deployment, every classified briefing, it's all theater. Pretending we're the good guys while we do the same things we condemn others for. At least Crane doesn't pretend. At least he's honest about what this is. Business. He's a traitor who got 41 operators killed. He's a pragmatist who understands that loyalty is a commodity like anything else. Webb's hand moved fractionally closer to his weapon. And you're about to become a problem that needs solving. Try it, Lena said. See what happens. Webb lunged. Lena fired. The shot caught Webb in the shoulder, spinning him backward. His weapon clattered to the floor. He stumbled against the wall, hand going to the wound. Lena kicked his weapon away, kept her own trained on him. You just shot a federal agent, Webb gasped. You're done. Finished. They'll bury you so deep. They'll bury you deeper. Lena pulled out the folded documents, dropped them on the floor in front of him. Those are copies. The originals are already on their way to every major news network and congressional oversight committee. Your signature, your authorization, your termination orders. All documented. Webb's face went white. You can't prove I authorized those. Handwriting analysis will prove it. Financial records will show payments to your accounts from the same offshore networks Crane used. Phone records will show communications between you and known conspirators. Lena's voice was steady. You're not walking away from this? The maintenance corridor door burst open. Hospital security poured in, followed by uniformed police officers. Behind them came Director Merchant, flanked by NCIS agents. Merchant took in the scene, Webb bleeding, Lena with weapon drawn, and nodded slowly. Stand down, Lieutenant. We've got him. Lena lowered the weapon. Agents moved in, securing Webb, reading him his rights. Merchant walked over to Lena. Jennifer Parks called my personal line 20 minutes ago. Sent me photos of the documents. We had agents moving before you even confronted him. How much did you know? We suspected Webb was compromised, but couldn't prove it. When Parks contacted us with hard evidence, everything clicked into place. Merchant looked at Webb being hauled away. He's been on Crane's payroll for 6 years, providing intelligence on witness protection protocols, compromising safe houses, eliminating threats. Hendricks? Already secured by a clean team I personally vetted. He's at the Capitol building as we speak, surrounded by Senate security and about 50 reporters. Merchant smiled slightly. He made quite an entrance. Showed up at 4 a.m. demanding protective custody from congressional sergeants-at-arms. Media's having a field day. Lena felt something loosen in her chest. He's safe. For now, but we need to get you there too. Hearing's been moved up, 8 hours from now. Senator wants to strike while the media attention is hot. I'm ready, Merchant gestured to her team. Transport detail, civilian vehicles, multiple routes, and this time I'm personally vetting every single person involved. They moved Lena through the hospital quickly, out a side entrance, into an unmarked sedan driven by an NCIS agent. Merchant introduced as someone she'd worked with for 15 years. The drive to Washington took 4 hours. They switched vehicles twice, changed routes 3 times. But nothing happened. No attacks, no ambushes, no complications. By the time they reached the Capitol building, the sun was up and the media circus was in full swing. News vans, cameras, reporters doing stand-ups in front of the Senate chamber entrance. Merchant led Lena through a secure entrance, down marble corridors, into a private room where lawyers waited with briefing documents and legal advice. Hendricks was there too. Rex at his side. He stood when Lena entered, moving stiffly but under his own power. You made it, he said. So did you. Rex trotted over, tail wagging. Lena knelt, let the K9 sniff her hand, then scratched behind his ears. He missed you, Hendricks said. I missed him too. A Senate aide appeared in the doorway. 5 minutes. They're ready for you. The hearing room was exactly as dramatic as Lena expected. High ceilings, polished wood. Senators seated at an elevated bench like judges. Gallery packed with media and observers. Every camera in the room turned when she entered. Lena walked to the witness table, sat, adjusted the microphone. The committee chairman, a stern woman in her 60s, called the hearing to order. Lieutenant Lena Hart. You've been called before this committee to provide testimony regarding conspiracy, espionage, and murder within Naval Special Warfare Command. Do you swear to tell the truth? I do. Then let's begin. The chairman pulled up a document on a screen visible to the entire room. Can you identify this signature? Lena looked at the screen, saw Admiral Theodore Crane's authorization to classify her death. Yes, That's Admiral Crane's signature. And what did this document do? It officially declared me killed in action 18 months ago, sealed my records under executive classification, and effectively erased me from existence. The chairman nodded. Why would an admiral of the United States Navy want to erase one of his own combat medics? Because I was assigned to an operator who'd discovered evidence of equipment fraud, Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen. He was investigating discrepancies in procurement manifests, weapons and supplies that were ordered but never delivered, money that disappeared into offshore accounts. Lena's voice was steady, clear. He was killed during what was reported as enemy contact, but ballistics analysis shows he was shot with American ammunition by someone on his own team. The room erupted in murmurs. The chairman gavelled for silence. Continue. I survived because I was evacuated for legitimate medical reasons before the kill order could be executed. Captain James Whitmore convinced me that my unit was compromised and that staying hidden was necessary for national security. I believed him. For 18 months, I disappeared, worked as a nurse under my real name, kept my head down, and tried to forget what I'd seen. What changed? Lieutenant Marcus Hendricks almost died in a hospital where I was working. His K-9 partner wouldn't leave his side. When I examined him, I realized he wasn't dead. He was in a battlefield shutdown state that civilian doctors wouldn't recognize. I saved his life. And in doing so, I exposed the entire operation that was designed to kill him. The chairman pulled up another document. This is a termination order bearing Agent Marcus Webb's signature. What can you tell us about this? Agent Webb was assigned to protect me after the attempt on Lieutenant Hendricks's life. I discovered last night that Webb was part of Admiral Crane's network. He'd been ordered to kill Lieutenant Hendricks and eliminate me before I could testify. Where is Agent Webb now? In NCIS custody, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and espionage. The hearing continued for 6 hours. Senators asked questions. Documents were submitted as evidence. Financial records were displayed showing money flowing from foreign intelligence services through shell corporations into accounts controlled by Crane and his network. Hendricks testified too, spoke about his team, about the convoy attack, about waking up in a hospital and realizing someone had tried to make him disappear. Other witnesses followed. Jennifer Parks testified about the pattern of suspicious deaths at Mercy Ridge. NCIS analysts testified about the scope of the conspiracy. Forensic accountants testified about the money. By the end, the evidence was overwhelming. The chairman called for a recess. When the hearing resumed, her expression was carved from stone. This committee finds sufficient evidence to recommend criminal prosecution of Admiral Theodore Crane, Captain James Whitmore, Dr. Gerald Pemberton, Agent Marcus Webb, and 17 other individuals connected to this conspiracy. She looked directly at the cameras. We will be requesting immediate extradition proceedings for Admiral Crane. We will be conducting a full audit of Naval Special Warfare Command, and we will be implementing oversight reforms to ensure nothing like this can happen again. She turned to Lena and Hendricks. Lieutenant Hart, Lieutenant Hendricks, on behalf of the United States Senate, I want to thank you for your courage, for your service, and for refusing to stay silent when powerful people wanted you erased. The chairman's voice softened slightly. This country owes you a debt it can never fully repay. The hearing adjourned. Media swarmed immediately, questions shouted from all directions, cameras flashing. Merchant's team escorted Lena and Hendricks out through a secure exit, away from the chaos. They ended up in a small office, just the two of them and Rex. Hendricks sat heavily. Well, that happened. Yeah. What now? Lena thought about it. About 18 months of hiding, about 3 days of running, about 6 hours of testimony that had just destroyed one of the most powerful officers in naval special warfare. Now we figure out who we are when we're not running, she said. Hendricks smiled. I'm told they want me back. Full reinstatement, command of a new unit, clean slate. Are you going to take it? Maybe, if I can choose my team. He looked at her. They made the same offer to you, didn't they? Reinstatement, full honors, back to active duty. They did. And? Lena was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out the documents Jennifer had given her, the list of 41 names, operators who'd been killed to protect secrets. I'm tired of watching good people die because someone in power decided they were inconvenient, she said. I'm tired of hiding, tired of pretending to be less than I am because it's safer. She looked up at Hendricks. So yes, I'm taking the reinstatement, but not to go back to how things were, to make sure this never happens again. How? By building something new, a unit that operates outside normal command structure, that answers directly to congressional oversight, that investigates exactly this kind of corruption. Lena's voice was steady. They offered me that too. Leadership position, full autonomy, the authority to go after anyone, regardless of rank. Hendricks whistled softly. That's a lot of enemies you'd be making. Good. I've gotten used to it. He laughed. Then he extended his hand. If you're building something new, you're going to need people you can trust. People who've been through fire and came out the other side. People who owe you their lives. Lena shook his hand. You volunteering? Rex and I come as a package deal. I wouldn't have it any other way. The door opened. Director Merchant entered, followed by Colonel Richardson and Senator Ellen Crawford, the chairman from the hearing. Lieutenant Hart, Crawford said, we need to discuss your future. I already know what I want to do. Good, because we need it operational within 90 days. Congressional authorization is already in the works. Budget allocation is being fast-tracked. You'll have full investigative authority and the backing of Senate oversight. Crawford pulled up a document on a tablet. This is a preliminary organizational chart for what we're calling the Special Operations Integrity Division, military and civilian personnel, cross-agency access. The authority to investigate anyone in the defense and intelligence communities suspected of corruption, espionage, or abuse of power. She turned the tablet so Lena could see. At the top of the organizational chart was a single position, Director of Operations. The job's yours if you want it, Crawford said. You've already proved you can stand up to powerful people and win. You've already proved you won't back down when threatened. That's exactly what this position needs. Lena looked at the chart, at the opportunity to build something that could prevent what happened to her from happening to others. I want it, she said. Good. Crawford smiled. Then get to work. You've got 90 days to build a team, establish protocols, and prepare for your first investigation. She paused. Which, by the way, we'd like to be a complete audit of Naval Special Warfare Command. Root out anyone else who might be connected to Crane's network. Understood. The meeting continued for another hour. Details, procedures, legal frameworks. When it finally ended, Lena and Hendricks walked out of the Capitol building together. Rex trotted beside them. The sun was setting. The media had finally dispersed. The chaos had settled into something approaching normal. You know what I realized? Hendricks said as they walked. What? A week ago, I was dead. Declared KIA. Finished. But a nurse who everyone underestimated decided that wasn't acceptable. Decided to fight when everyone else backed down. And because of that, I'm here. We're here. About to take down the people who thought they were untouchable. I was just doing my job. No. Hendricks stopped, looked at her directly. You were doing what no one else had the courage to do. Standing up, fighting back, refusing to accept that powerful people get to decide who lives and who dies based on what's convenient for them. He was right, but Lena had never seen it quite that way. I was a temporary nurse, she said quietly. 11 days on the job. Nobody. They didn't even know my name. And now? Now they'll remember it. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Hendricks spoke again. Thank you, he said, for not giving up on me, for seeing something everyone else missed, for being exactly who you are when it mattered most. Lena thought about Or 7, about the K9 who wouldn't leave his handler's side, about the moment she'd knelt beside the table and decided to trust her training over everyone else's certainty. Thank Rex, she said. He's the one who knew the truth all along. Yeah, Hendricks scratched the K9's ears. He's pretty smart like that. 3 weeks later, Lena stood in a federal courtroom as Admiral Theodore Crane was extradited back to the United States. He looked older, smaller. The power he'd wielded for so long stripped away completely. Their eyes met across the courtroom. Crane's expression was pure hatred. Lena's was calm, professional, untouchable. She'd won. and he knew it. The trial took 6 months. Every detail exposed, every crime documented, every victim named. Crane was convicted on 43 counts, including espionage, conspiracy to commit murder, and treason. Sentenced to life in a maximum security federal prison with no possibility of parole. Whitmore died in federal custody before trial. Official cause: suicide. But the investigation suggested someone in Crane's network had reached him first. One final loose end tied up. Pemberton and Webb both took plea deals, life sentences in exchange for testimony against others in the network. By the time it ended, 17 people had been convicted. Dozens more were under investigation, and Naval Special Warfare Command had been completely restructured. Lena's new division became operational exactly 90 days after the hearing. She'd assembled a team of 12 operators, investigators, analysts, legal experts, people who'd been burned by the system and wanted to fix it. Hendricks was her second in command. Rex was officially assigned as the division's first K-9 unit. Their first case involved tracking down the remaining members of Crane's network. It took 8 months, but they found every single one. Their second case exposed a procurement fraud scheme that had been siphoning money from 3 different agencies for over a decade. Their third case prevented an assassination attempt on a federal prosecutor who'd been getting too close to a powerful defense contractor. Within 2 years, the Special Operations Integrity Division had investigated over 40 cases, secured 27 convictions, and recovered over $300 million in stolen funds. Lena was promoted to colonel, Hendricks to major. Rex got his own medal ceremony, which he slept through. 5 years after that night in OR 7, Lena stood at a podium addressing a new class of Unit 7 combat medics. Young faces, eager, terrified of failure. She knew exactly how they felt. "You're being trained for situations where everything has gone wrong," she told them, "where the person in front of you isn't supposed to survive, where everyone else has given up, where the smart move is to step back and accept reality." She paused, let the words sink in. "But you're not being trained to make the smart move. You're being trained to make the right move, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when everyone tells you it's impossible." She pulled up an image on the screen behind her, the OR 7 photo, her kneeling beside Hendricks' table, Rex watching. This was supposed to be a corpse. Everyone said so. 3 physicians, multiple nurses, hospital administration. They were all certain. Lena's voice was steady. But a K-9 knew differently, and I decided to trust him over everyone else's certainty, because sometimes the truth isn't what the experts say. Sometimes it's what you see when you look closer than anyone else bothered to. The young medics were listening intently now. You're going to face situations where powerful people tell you to back down, to accept their version of reality, to stay in your lane and not ask questions. Lena met their eyes, one by one. Don't. Never stop asking questions. Never stop trusting your training. Never stop fighting for the person in front of you, no matter who tells you it's hopeless. She dismissed the class, watched them file out, talking among themselves, processing what they'd heard. Hendricks appeared beside her. "Good speech. Think they heard it?" "Some of them, the ones who needed to." He gestured to the hallway where several young medics were still talking, their voices animated. "That's how it works. Plant the seed, see what grows." Lena thought about the last 5 years, about everything that had changed, about the people who'd tried to erase her and failed, about the nurse who'd been nobody 11 days into a temporary job, about the lieutenant who'd refused to stay dead, about the K-9 who'd known the truth when no one else did. "Come on," Hendricks said. "We've got a briefing in 20 minutes. New case. Looks complicated." "They're all complicated." "Yeah, but we're good at complicated." They walked through the halls of the facility that housed the Special Operations Integrity Division. Their facility, their team, their mission. Lena had spent 18 months disappeared, 18 months being no one. Now she was exactly who she was always meant to be. Someone who fought back. Someone who didn't quit. Someone who proved that the quiet ones, the underestimated ones, the ones everyone dismissed, they were often the most dangerous, because they had nothing left to lose, and everything to prove. Rex trotted beside them, tail wagging, ready for whatever came next, just like he'd been ready in OR 7, just like he'd always be. The door to the briefing room opened. Their team was already assembled, 12 people who'd all been underestimated at some point, who'd all fought back, who'd all chosen to stand when everyone else backed down. Lena took her seat at the head of the table. "Let's get to work," she said, and they did.